Okay, folks, why don't we get started? Take care of some preliminary matters first, and hopefully Commissioner Sturman will be able to join us. Thank you all for being here today. This begins our conference meeting this October 19th, 2020, excuse me, March 19th, 2024. And I appreciate you all being here. Thank you to the NSU Fort Lauderdale Art Museum for hosting us again for this meeting. And we appreciate the accommodations here. They're very comfortable. So let us begin with CF1 Quarterly Investment Report for the period ending December 31st, 2023. Who's going to begin? Linda? How much money did we make?
Miss Linda Short, CFO, will be presenting that. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Vice Mayor and Commissioner.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here to report on the quarterly investment report for the ending of the quarter. Overall, the city's funds had a positive percentage gain. We earned about 4.59% overall on our operating portfolio. So we also did very well on our OPEB and all the other funds. So,
okay.
Any questions?
I have no questions. Anyone else have any questions?
No, my only comment is I'm just glad to see how well our passive funds are doing.
Right. And when we get to the OPEB, I'll share some information because one of the funds underperformed, but I'll explain why at that meeting. Okay? I have Scott Sweden here from PFM Asset Management if you guys have any questions about the market.
Do you have any additional comments you'd like to make?
She covered all the high points. For the most part, from a strategy
Are we still investing in timber?
From a strategy standpoint, we're just basically waiting on the Fed. Obviously, rates. They should start to cut rates probably June, July time frame. They are meeting today and tomorrow. We fully don't expect any movement until mid-year. So outside of that, performance has been strong across the board. Even with all of the volatility in the third and fourth quarter, we navigated the markets very well.
So what you're basically saying is that should the Federal Reserve Bank start to reduce interest rates, then our performance is going to go down too. Because our return on investment is going to be reduced because the interest rates go down.
What you're going to see is on the short end and under category, that's going to move basically lock and step with the Fed funds rate being decreased. Once the curve starts to normalize, which would be upward sloping, we are slowly starting to move clients a little bit further out on the curve from a proactive rather than a reactive standpoint. So we'll be able to lock in attractive yields as we start to see the Fed moving a little bit closer to cutting rates. So.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, there being none, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And Mayor, the Brazilian timber was in GERS.
Okay. Brazilian timber. Wonderful. We're cutting. We're complicit with cutting down the rainforest in the Amazon.
That too, and there was also some significant corruption associated with it.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Moving on. I guess the big thing this afternoon, and the only real item on the agenda is business one, which is the proposed public-private partnership draft ordinance. So to put this into context for the public and for the commission, the city of Fort Lauderdale has operated through the public-private unsolicited proposal approach to some of the projects that we have already undertaken. We did so under the state statute. The city of Fort Lauderdale never really operated under its own ordinance, and so it's been proposed that we adopt our own ordinance. And as you can see from the backup, there's a graphic showing the existing statute as well as the proposed ordinance, which actually adds to the existing state statute. So we should take our time today to try to go through this, to understand it. Duane is here to explain it to us, and there are a few people who've signed up to speak on behalf of it. So why don't we begin with Duane, and please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Commissioners. Duane Spence, Deputy City Attorney. In your backup, you have our commission agenda memorandum, and attached to that is a memorandum from our office dated February 22nd, in which we have a table that outlines or compares the proposed draft ordinance with the existing state statute. Also, as a additional item, as you're aware, the state legislature recently adopted a bill that adds an additional process to the P3, and if signed into law by the governor, or if he does not veto it by July 1st, those amendments would be a part, or will become a part of state statute. So first, I'd like us to take a look at the memorandum and the table and go over quickly the features of the ordinance.
This is Exhibit 1.
This would be Exhibit 1 of the CAM today.
Dwayne, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Sure.
So we're going to go through this exercise now, but we're looking at Florida statutes as they exist now, but not the new legislation.
That's correct.
So is this an exercise we should be doing now? I mean, is this premature? I know we have to wait till July 1 anyway to see, I guess, if the governor signs or it just goes into law. But I guess my question is, I don't know why we're doing this exercise right now.
Well, we're not going to vote on anything today.
No, I understand.
So maybe this will just take us to the first step in understanding what our ordinance is, what our ordinance proposals are based on the existing state statute. Your point is well taken.
But why am I doing that and comparing it to our existing state statute when all that's going to change right now?
Well, is it all going to change? I mean,
No, it's not all going to change. The two main features that I highlight of the change into the state legislature is a new process, a public hearing process that allows the city commission, when it receives a unsolicited proposal, to choose not to go through the existing process, but go through a public hearing to determine whether or not the proposal is in the public interest, and bypassing a public bid process for that. And additionally, it allows for only unsolicited proposals, which now are required to be publicly owned at the end of 10 years, to be privately owned.
so in the ordinance that's being proposed here tonight, your first statement is incorporated here. We're incorporating it in our own ordinance to allow for public input, correct? In other words, you're mirroring the proposed state statute if it's allowed to go into effect.
No, the proposal does not include that public hearing process. It includes a process contemplating the existing state statute. We would have to make the necessary adjustments to incorporate that process if it's the desire of the city commission to adopt that process.
Is this imposed on us by the state statute, or is it?
It's an additional option. So the proper way to view the state statute is that it is a process that the legislature provides for the local municipalities. We don't need to adopt an ordinance. We can set the procedures that we're proposing in a draft ordinance out in a policy or even by resolution outlining the process. The intent of the draft ordinance is to provide some direction to staff with regards to elements of the statute that aren't spelled out in the state statute. So what happens when we receive an unsolicited proposal? The statute just says you have to make a determination as far as public interest, but it doesn't spell out the process for the municipality to undertake, or the governmental entity to undertake once they receive such proposals.
But, and Mayor, again, I understand all of this, and I also shared with staff an article that just recently appeared in bondbuyer.com. What the state is doing here is really changing the game in terms of P3s. And I'm just not sure why I'm going through this exercise now, comparing everything to the existing state statutes, when that's all going to change as of July 1. So I don't know why we're doing this exercise right now. It seems to me something we should do so that what I'm looking at is a grid that not talks about what we're proposing, but, well, yes, talks about what we're proposing, but then contrasts it with the brand new legislation, not the legislation as it stands now. I don't understand why we're doing this exercise right now. It seems like we're just wasting time, and it's an unnecessary step because things are going to change. I mean, if you look at the bill, which by the way passed 114 to 0 in the House and 37 to 2 in the Senate, it's going to be signed. I can't imagine why it wouldn't be. But it changes everything. It changes notice requirements. It changes, that you can not have like Dwayne just said, it doesn't have to go out to bid if you hold 2 public meetings on the proposal and you determine that it meets public purpose. There's just so many changes, and I want to make sure that we're not going to work towards something that might be either preempted by the state or just make not any sense in terms of who's going to, prevail, the state's legislation or us. And I don't even know if we're able to be more restrictive. I don't know what we're able to do. But again, I don't know why we're doing this and looking at it in terms of what the current state legislation is when that's all going out the window. That's all.
Dwayne, can I clarify that? Because my understanding of what the state's adopting is it is adding to permissive options for us, not things that we are obligated to do, doesn't require us to do anything. It's simply giving us a little more optionality, which we could choose to incorporate into our ordinance at some point down the road or not, if we deem it not to be in the best interest of the city. Is that correct?
So it provides a secondary process versus the existing process. It provides a secondary process for
optionality,
reviewing.
though, as an alternative if we so choose to go down. So as I understand it, what the state is trying to accomplish here is allow additional freedom for municipalities to take different paths at some point.
That's
but
correct.
it's not imposing that on us, right? We can continue to operate under whatever we adopt now. There's no obligation for us to. In other words, this isn't changing everything. It's simply giving a couple more pathways that we could, if we so choose, follow at some point down the road.
It provides an additional pathway. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
It also gets into ownership issues, though, also as well. That's not in the current
But
statute.
again, it's optional, Commissioner.
I just
It's not
wanna-
mandatory.
I
It
know,
doesn't
I
change
understand.
anything that we're doing. We could adopt a more robust ordinance today, and then this provides just, again, optionality should we so choose to embrace turning over public property on a permanent basis and giving it away to somebody as opposed to retaining ownership of it at the end of the P3. We can certainly do that, and the state is simply allowing us the option to do that. It's not saying we have to. It's not saying we even have to consider it. It's simply saying if we wanted to consider it, the state will now permit us to do so, which it would not permit us to do so in the past.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that I don't understand why we're looking at this issue now with a grid that gives us information about the current legislation, what's on the books now, and that's all going to go away in a few months. That's all. It seems to me that we should be looking at this, and our backup should have all of these specifics in terms of, Florida statutes. It should be the Florida statutes that are going to take effect on July 1. That's all. I mean, you guys want to do
Well,
this?
there's
Okay.
merit. I mean, I understand what John is saying, and I understand what you're saying. I'm just curious, Dwayne, why did you find it appropriate to bring this up now as opposed to in July when the statute actually takes effect?
Oh, because I promised to bring it back. So at the time that we had our first meeting, when we had the first discussion in October, this bill wasn't passed, and I told you all we would bring it back
but
after.
things have happened in the
Right.
meantime. That's the thing. I mean, I appreciate your eagerness to get this before the commission, but I'm just wondering if it now becomes premature because the state legislature is now taking it upon itself to do something to kind of tweak the statute. It doesn't preclude us from adding or subtracting from the statute, but it certainly I mean, we can have a conversation today about this. You can tell us what the kinds of things. You can tell us the kind of things that you feel the city should incorporate. But when it comes to the two things that have just been brought up, the notice with the notice that we normally have been following, which was the 12 days, 21 days and 120 days versus the two public hearings. We can talk about that because that's it. We know that's coming to us, and we can talk about the ownership, the residual ownership provision. We can talk about that, and I'm sure the people that have signed up today want to talk about that. So, so Commissioner Glassman, let us go forward with this. But understanding what you're saying, there might be some redundancy in a subsequent meeting, but I think it bears. There's something that I think we could certainly derive in a positive way, and this is the only item on today's agenda. So why don't we move forward with it?
I'm fine with that discussion. I just wanted to mention all of this because I think it is pertinent, and then we should be cognizant of the fact that we can't do anything till after July 1st anyway. That's all.
Well, we're not voting on anything now.
No,
anyway,
I know. I'm not saying we are. I'm just.
Okay.
I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Please proceed.
Sure. So the table that we have in that memorandum of February 22, 2024, memorandum 24-021, has 3 columns. The first column is the proposed ordinance. The second column represents the unsolicited proposal process as outlined in state statute, and the third column is the solicited proposal process as required by state statute. And again, this is condensed. This does not have every detail of even the existing law. It just outlines the pertinent features of the statute that talks about the process as we move forward. So the first row of the column, we deal with the solicited proposal. It requires an independent analysis of the proposed public-private partnership, which demonstrates the cost-effectiveness and overall public benefit before the procurement process is initiated. So this is done by the city because it's going to be a proposal that's solicited, that they obtain an independent analysis of the public-private partnership. The solicitation is issued for proposals, and generally, the statute doesn't provide that much detail with regards to what those proposals are and what those solicitations look like. So the ordinance proposes in this step that we specify methods of procurement, and that is determined by the chief procurement officer of the city, and can be one of the following: competitive sealed bid, competitive sealed proposal, competitive negotiated process. And with further evaluation of that might just be condensed to the more applicable competitive processes, the competitive sealed proposal, or the negotiation process.
So can I interrupt you for a second here?
Sure.
So in the past, we allowed for a competitive sealed bid so that if a proponent came forward to the city, they had a proposal, the city commission made a determination as to whether or not to move forward. We would give it either 21 up to 120 days, but it was sealed. It wasn't public.
So we haven't had a solicited proposal. So this is a proposal that's initiated by the city and not by an outside person. So we'll get to the unsolicited proposal,
Okay.
which is a slightly different process. But this is if the city, on its own initiative, found a site in a project and said, "Hey, this would be a good candidate for a solicited proposal for P3." Then the city would initiate it going through this process.
Suntex Las Olas Marina was a solicited P3.
Right.
Oh, was that? Okay.
But to that
After we
extent,
rejected the original, so we had received an initial unsolicited P3, which was rejected by the city manager and myself in my prior role as not being in the best interest of the city, and then we did a solicited
And then
P3.
the city
which is-
itself developed a proposal.
Correct.
Okay.
But how does that differ from an RFP, a solicited proposal versus an RFP. In other words, we go out and say, we would entertain unsolicited proposals, which is kind of a contradiction of terms, but we will entertain proposals for this site to do certain things. I mean,
it's the partnership aspect of it,
right?
So,
because the marina was something we put out there what we wanted. Mm-hmm. Did we not also put certain characteristics that we were hoping that the proponent would submit in their proposal? I mean, it wasn't just a naked, statement. We want something
So
there.
we had minimums, Mayor. So what we said was in line with the original proposal from the Marina Advisory Board, where they wanted to go to 6,000 lineal feet
Right.
on the available dock space. We knew a couple of things. We knew we wanted to hit that 6,000 lineal feet. We wanted to be able to accommodate the super yachts, the mega yachts. So it needed to be lineal dockage and not slips. We also knew that we were generating roughly $1.5 million in revenue off of the facility. So we didn't want anything that came back at any less than the revenue that we were currently generating off the parking lot and the marina. And we also knew that we wanted certain other amenities in there, and we spelled those out as minimum criteria. And that's why it was a solicited one, because anybody was able to come in. In fact, we had 2 submittals at the time with better offers for revenue sharing and revenue above and beyond the bare minimum, additional lineal footage of available dock space. But we set minimum acceptable criteria for anybody that wanted to partner with us. And again, like I said, we had 2 bids initially, and then fell back to 1.
Right. So how does that differ from a request for a proposal versus a request for a solicited proposal with minimum requirements?
it's just the end result of the project. So under the P3 ordinance, you're ending up with a public-private partnership that's authorized under the statute.
Right.
With your regular RF, it's going to be the same as far as the process itself for the solicitation and the procurement.
That's what I said.
But the end result under the statute, which is this comprehensive agreement, and those processes differ from the initial solicitation.
Okay. All right. Very good. And now I understand it. I hope the world understands that too. Okay. Okay. Good. Please proceed.
So we're on page 2, and under the proposed ordinance, we just outline a process for that solicitation of the solicited proposal. So what you'll see on that left column is bringing in the, and again, we've, based on prior discussions, we took a look at the City of Miami ordinance and modeled some of these steps after their procurement process. We can better align this with our existing procurement process so that it's aligned with our process. But a feature that they had was a finance committee that reviewed the proposal if it involved a long-term financing. Our ordinance proposes that that's done through the city finance department, and that's one of the first steps here. Then notices provided on our bidding platforms. We have a pre-proposal conference. Proposals are submitted through that platform. It's evaluated by the evaluation committee. The city manager then reviews the committee's recommendations and determines whether or not to submit the proposal to the city commission for its consideration. And then the city commission awards, just like our regular process. It will come before you at a regular meeting for a vote and determination as to whether to proceed. So that is the front end of the solicited proposal process. The next step before that would be a jump over to the comprehensive agreement negotiation portion. Did you want me to continue with the solicited proposal or jump to the? I think it's best if we continue with that, and I'll come back to the unsolicited. So once the decision is made to enter into the comprehensive agreement, there is the expression of an intent to enter into the agreement by selecting the proposal. and there's an option to enter into an interim agreement while the comprehensive agreement is being negotiated. And that is optional. You can go straight to the comprehensive agreement, and the next step is an independent analysis of the proposed public-private partnership, which demonstrates the cost-effectiveness and overall public benefit.
Well, do you want me to wait till the end for questions, or as you're going along?
You should ask it as you're going along.
Okay.
Because
Why would you go to? What would prompt you to go interim versus wait and go into a comp agreement? Why would you do one versus the other?
So the interim agreement is to allow the partner to enter the site and start site preparation work. That, based on the time period, would, the waiting for the completion of the negotiations on a comprehensive agreement would not would hinder the project in a way.
So this would be a project that might be, for instance, time sensitive. You'd want to.
So the determination, what the statute provides is that before and in connection with the negotiation of the comprehensive agreement, you may enter into the interim agreement. And the provisions of the interim agreement should be limited to commencing activities that may be compensated or related to the proposed project, which includes the project planning and development, design, environmental analysis, mitigation, surveys, or other activities concerning the proposed project, establishing a process and timeline for negotiating the comprehensive agreement, and containing other provisions related to aspects of the development or operation of the qualified project that a responsible public entity or private entity deems appropriate. So there can be a number of things in the development review process. Due diligence, for example. You can enter into a interim agreement to govern that process of how are we proceeding with the due diligence on the site. Again, environmental work and things of that nature.
So this is a little problematic to me because I know we did this recently with the redevelopment of the Eichhoff Museum. And we agreed to reimburse them for any of their costs. And by the time we got to the comprehensive agreement, they had already run up $2.5 million of soft costs. So had we opted not to move forward with that agreement, the city was obligated then to reimburse the developer that $2.5 million. Now, we moved forward with the agreement, so that's not a burden to us. But I'm concerned that doing that creates an impetus for us to sign an agreement that we may not otherwise want to sign because we're now out millions of dollars as a penalty for deciding not to move forward. So I have significant concerns about doing that. Not necessarily to stop them from coming in and doing site surveys or anything like that, but I would strongly urge us not to agree to reimburse any developer. Developers are at risk. The whole point of a P3 is the private sector is at risk. The public sector should never be at risk. That's the whole point of a P3 is risk transfer. So anytime we guarantee anything to the private sector, it undermines the entire premise of a P3. So I want us to be very mindful of that we ought not be doing that because, again, it subverts the intent of risk transfer as a P3 to the private sector.
So I think that intent is probably more aligned with how you think of the P3 as far as the benefit, but I think the legislative intent is merely dealing with the cost effectiveness of getting that development within a time and time efficiency. So those are the two things that they expressly outline in the statute as being the intent, the time it takes to get that project done and the costs associated with it.
But here's an aspect to that, though. With an unsolicited P3, there should be no urgency on our part. Somebody has come to us. They say, you've got a great piece of dirt. I want to build something on it and make a lot of money. And we're like, okay, go ahead and do it. there's no urgency on our side to advance that project. If it's a solicited P3, and I'm saying, yes, I want you to build this marina, and I want it up and running before the boat show starts, I get the sense of urgency. But if it's an unsolicited P3, somebody has come to us with an idea that they think is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They want to go ahead and do it, and we allow them to. There shouldn't be any sense of urgency on our part to move it forward. Again, that's benefiting them. This is not something that we would have done absent that unsolicited P3, because if it was something we would have done, then we would have gone out and solicited a P3. I mean, that's the very nature of an unsolicited P3, is people come to us with what they think is a bright idea and ask us if we will partner with them to go do it. So, again.
Well, the only concern that I have about, you're absolutely correct in thinking that, and that's been our experience so far, except that I would hate to participate with an unsolicited proposal applicant and then they get approved and they sit on it. And sometimes that happens for reasons that are out of their control.
Oh, yeah, no, agreed, Mayor. I think you're absolutely right.
And then
on
I
that.
want to be able to have that ability to retract it. So,
Well, I think we build that into the comprehensive agreement anyway, though, right? Where we've approved something and we put certain deadlines in there for financing, for getting phase
Different
one environmental
milestones,
zone
yeah.
and everything else. And again, but that goes back to if we should exercise our right to withdraw from the agreement based on non-performance, I don't want to be obligated to reimburse them all their design.
well,
and
I agree
everything
with you
else.
100% there. But you, on page 4, don't you speak to that? Has adequate safeguards in place to ensure that additional costs of service disruptions are not imposed on the public in the event of material default or cancellation of the comprehensive agreement by the responsible public entity? You kind of build that in there, if I'm reading that correctly.
Building into the comprehensive agreement?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's statutorily required. These are the parts of the determination that we have to make. And it comes down to identifying those mechanisms that assures these things. But the statute does require us to make that determination.
Right. And I think we've learned over time some of the requirements that need to be incorporated in these comprehensive agreements or interim comprehensive agreements, because these situations keep coming up, and Fort Lauderdale seems to be at the forefront of this whole unsolicited proposal undertaking. Other cities are looking to us and have been looking to us for the last several years as we've undertaken all these projects, whether it be the marina, whether it be the Chase Stadium, or it's funny, I haven't gotten used to calling it Chase Stadium yet, but I keep saying it sounds like Shea Stadium. And
Mr. No, you just mentioned comprehensive agreement. John, you brought up an excellent point. No safeguards, not in the comprehensive agreement, but at the interim agreement stage, that we are not on the hook. Because like he said, with the Hall of Fame, we were $2.5 million into it. We're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. So I think we should be very mindful of what John pointed out, that in the interim stages that we're not locked in for an exit fee. That's something we should be thinking about.
That's what it says here.
Well, that's for comp. Is that also for interim too, or not?
Say it again?
That was for a comprehensive agreement. For interim
It
agreements
says
also?
solicited proposal.
Okay. What page are you on?
No, the solicited, not the unsolicited, though.
We're unsolicited. Well, I mean, we're just talking about solicited now.
Correct. So if
Okay.
that would be a good segue. Let's, before we start talking, because the comprehensive agreement applies to both solicited and unsolicited. If we can go back to page 2 and let's talk about the unsolicited proposal process.
And also,
what's
Mr. Mayor, that was the difference between an interim and a comp. A comp is one thing, but the interim agreement, I don't think should, like John said, we should be on the hook for that.
Okay. So the unsolicited proposal is a item that proposer just presents to the city. We have a initial application fee that's provided for in state statute, and we've adopted by resolution. So they submit their proposal with the initial application fee, and statute requires that if the proposal is not evaluated, that we return that fee to the developer. So what the ordinance proposes is that the city manager provide an initial review and can decide to reject that unsolicited proposal upon receipt. If he chooses not to reject it, it can go before the City Commission for a conference discussion and a decision as to whether or not to enter the comprehensive agreement. Then we go back to the statutory process, which is the evaluation of the unproposed, unsolicited proposal, a written notice requesting additional amounts of an additional amount if the evaluation of the proposal costs more than the initial application fee. The city is able to request an additional amount for review, and payment of that fee is required within 30 days of that written notice of that additional request. The decision to evaluate or the next step is the intent to enter into the comprehensive agreement. And under the present statute, that requires the City Commission to set a time frame for accepting proposals between 21 days and 120 days. This is where the new legislation deviates. There's a separate process, public hearing process, that would supplant this process at the discretion of the commission if they choose that process. Following that, there's a published notice of the acceptance of proposals in the Florida Administrative Register and the newspaper once a week for 2 weeks. Our ordinance would require additional notice on city's website and bidding platforms. There's also a notice to each local government that is in the affected area of the proposed qualified project. The ordinance would place the proposal on its online platform, and then it would establish the evaluation committee for the ranking of proposals. So this would be similar to the committee that reviews our procurement items now. So that's typically a staff committee that's selected. This aspect we're just presenting as the concept. There should be more discussion from you all as to what an evaluation committee of these proposals, if it's the desired direction that the commission would like to go, what that composition would be like and how those individuals would be selected. Then, just like the solicited proposal, there's the option of the interim agreement, and then negotiations on the comprehensive agreement may begin with the highest ranked firm that is ranked by that eval committee. If the negotiations are not satisfactory, we may terminate those negotiations and go with the second ranked or subsequent ranked firms. If there's still no satisfaction, the city may reject all proposals at that point until a contract with a proposer is executed. Our ordinance provides the city manager with the authority to reject proposals or submit the evaluation committee's recommendations to the city. So there's a two-tier discretion with the city manager. So it's on the initial receipt of an unsolicited proposal where they can evaluate and decide whether we move forward. After there's a decision to move forward and it's presented to the commission at a conference meeting, if during this negotiation, during the evaluation process, the recommendation comes back, this ordinance also provides the discretion of the city manager based on the recommendation of the eval committee to reject all proposals.
Right, and just so I'm on the record, I'm totally against that. I think the decision should always be that the commission's decision. The city manager, I don't think the city manager would want that responsibility anyway.
I think they could always bring it back to it. And this kind of reflects back to the earlier discussion that we were having. So when we had the first unsolicited proposal for Los Olas Marina, the city manager reviewed it, Mr. Feldman at the time, and he made a judgment call that this is not something that he thought was in the best interest of the city. The commission can always overrule that, but that's his recommendation, that we not accept the check, because that's really what it is. It's about, it triggers whether we accept in cash that $25,000 check, and we start that formal process.
That's the way it is now, but I'm just saying this proposal doesn't allow for that.
Well, I think what we can do is we can still have that, what I would call first blush look by the city manager, and maybe perhaps then the city manager says, I don't recommend we entertain this one.
Right,
I mean,
and that's
we
fine.
yeah.
I think that we expect the city manager or his staff
Right.
to review it and say, you know, this will fly, this won't fly,
Right.
but at least give us the option of making that final decision. Here, the proposed ordinance says that the city manager has the authority to reject, and I don't think that we should incorporate that into our law.
Well, the question could be, like, number one is, if the city manager rejects, do we still reserve the right for a call-up? Or number two, do we require the city manager to present all of them to us, even the ones he rejected? Those,
Well, I think John was right in terms of the way we do it now, which is to kind of see if it passes muster. You know, if there's some, you know, if it seems like it could work, the city manager can say, you know, why don't I'll present this to the commission. If he says, you know what, this isn't going to fly, and we've seen a lot of those happen in our city, but I do think that ultimately the city commission needs to be the decision maker on those things. I just don't think that the city manager, because I'll tell you, we had an experience where with the Inter-Miami proposal, where there was more than one proposal, and if we had allowed the city manager at the time to reject or to accept those proposals, we may never have the Inter-Miami Stadium today. So,
Well, I think the statute says if we accept one, then we have to advertise for others.
well, that's fine.
Right, so we would have looked at both of them regardless. Once we accepted one, either of the two initial offers, we're obligated then to entertain the other ones that are similar in nature. What I like, though, out of this is the idea of not just the city manager, but I like the idea of having a committee that looks at it. I would suggest something, attorney's office, auditor's office, and then, you know, finance director, something like that. In other words, because what I've seen happen in the past, Mayor, is that the city manager simply takes whatever unsolicited P3s comes in and throws them to the commission without doing any due diligence ahead of time.
I don't know that to be the case, but if that has been the case,
I
I
can
don't
tell
think
you
that's
from
appropriate. I think
experience,
that I think that the city manager does himself justice by having the city auditor, having the city attorney, having, you know, senior people who are most capable of analyzing some of these proposals. If it's a marine oriented thing, we should bring in people who know with the marine industry. So I don't think any city manager is going to really rely upon themselves to make those decisions. But if we,
But I think this is
we
about
should
creating a
incorporate it.
process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
We
that
should
it's not
incorporate it.
ad hoc, right?
I
So it's not
agree.
ad hoc.
I agree.
So, Dwayne, based on this conversation we're having right now, when this new legislation takes effect, and instead of the public bidding process, it allows us to hold 2 public meetings on the proposal and determine whether the proposal is in the public's interest. Do we have to follow that, or can we say, no, we still like sending it out to bid and giving it that time frame between 21 to 120? In other words, will we always have the choice now that this new legislation is going to take effect and say, hey, you can actually do away with this bidding process?
You'll always have the choice. You have the choice between the public bidding process, and I'm glad that they have named it public bidding to make it clear that it's not just providing notice for additional proposers or this public hearing process on the one solicited proposal.
So let me ask you this. Will this be per unsolicited proposal, or will it be something that once we establish our ordinance, we're locked into that? In other words, will we have the option of, with each unsolicited proposal, determining whether we're going to just have the 2 public hearings or do the bidding process, or do we have to make up our minds and do it for everything that comes forward?
So the draft ordinance does not address this at all, and I would recommend against putting anything in the draft ordinance that forecloses any of the statutory processes.
So in other words, to give the commission the flexibility
On a case-by-case
case.
The option should be remain open.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
So then afterwards, the statute, while you're negotiating the comprehensive agreement, there are certain things that are required prior to approval, and the mayor had started taking a look at those items, these items that are listed on page 4, the third written row that starts with determination that the proposed project meets the requirements of 255.0653D. These are statutorily required items that must be determined before the comprehensive agreement is approved. So before the actual agreement comes back before the commission, these items must be determined and evaluated. The comprehensive agreement is then approved, and before the signing of the agreement, so the statute has approval of the agreement, and then it has the execution of the agreement, and it gets into the requirements of a reasonable finance plan, qualified project costs, revenue source, available financing, major assumptions, internal rate of return on private investment, et cetera. All of these items need to be determined prior to the execution of the comprehensive agreement. And so that is the process and how the proposed draft supplements that process. And that concludes the review of the process on my end.
All right. Before we go into public hearing, does anyone have any questions now, or do you want to wait till after the public speaks? I just have a few people who signed up. You want to wait? Okay. All right. All right. So a few people. Thank you, Duane. A few people have signed up to speak. I'll call your names in threes. Ted and Sarah, Marilyn Mamano, Marilyn Peliquin. Excuse me, Mary Peliquin. Sorry. My sister's name is Marilyn. I was thinking about her. Yeah. Ted, I called you first, but Mary, do you want to come up first?
Yes, I would, yeah, because they have a good presentation respecting what I'm going to say.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know if I like that or not.
Well, Mary,
You may need to rethink your.
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, Mayor,
Mary.
Commissioners, other esteemed people up on the dais there, so good to see you all. The reason I'm here is the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations, of which I'm president. By the way, I'm Mary Peliquin. Put together a committee to look at P3s and what seemed to work and what really didn't seem to work to us. And we recognize there are a lot of really great P3s around Fort Lauderdale, and there's a lot of them, and we appreciate those. But there's been times where we kind of feel like these things get kind of just shoved done, and where it's all of a sudden, wait, that kind of a feeling. So that's why we put this committee together. On the committee, it was chaired by Marilyn Mamano, who you're going to hear from in a minute, Bill Brown, Christine Jones, Janet Gaultier, Jackie Scott, Ann Hilmer, Donna Mergenhagen, Leanne Farber, and Gustavo Sergente. So we had people on the committee from all 4 districts, so we could get a good feel that everybody had something to say. We sent 2 documents that are in there. The first one I'm going to talk about very briefly. I'm going to turn it over to Marilyn. It was at the suggestion of our city attorney that we take our 4 or 5 page document and create it into a 1-page bullet point thing. And so that's what you're seeing here. And it's just basically, so you get something at a glance. We would like more public participation and transparency. We would like to see information published and put and available in real time, not afterwards. A web page should be added to the city website dedicated to P3 proposals. Then, once the proposal has gotten past that point, the process begins. We would like there to be evaluations that would be posted in time for the public to comment. Workshops or conference meetings should be held to discuss these evaluations. Commission awards should be by supermajority, and that means all of you on the commission vote. If somebody's absent or leaves a meeting early, I don't think that should count. And
Mary,
then monitoring for performance and compliance.
I'm sorry. Oh, Mary,
Yeah.
supermajority is not all of us, though.
It's 4 out of 5.
Okay, unanimous.
Well,
Sorry, I said the wrong
But
thing.
your document says unanimous when it involves parks. Did you mean supermajority for everything else? There's a difference from what you're saying versus what's in your document.
Well, let me see. Oh, involving parks. I'm going fast, so yes. A
But-
supermajority and unanimous when involving city parks.
Right.
So supermajority for not parks, unanimous for parks.
I just want to clarify. Thanks.
Okay, no, thank you. I wasn't clear. And monitoring for performance and compliance should be assigned and reported on. Renewals should not be automatic, but based on performance and public comment. And as Commissioner Herbst said earlier, there's criteria built into these comprehensive agreements where they have their financing, when are they going to start building, et cetera, and we'd like to see that process, followed through, because sometimes it feels like things just get sort of shoved through and they get to keep going even though nothing's really happening. So with that, I hope you don't have any questions of me. I'm going to turn this over to Marilyn. She's our expert, is what she did as a profession, and she's been great running this committee. So there you go.
The committee was like an ad hoc committee of the Council of Civic Association?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. All volunteer.
right. Thank you. Marilyn?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It was a privilege to work on this committee and with the City Attorney's Office. We have been working on this for quite some time, and today we have come to a point where we are actually sort of on the cusp of coming to a resolution of this. And with respect to Commissioner Glassman's concerns about the optional procedure, which is very likely, I agree with you, going to be signed by the governor, I would bet the farm that I don't own that there's some private developer somewhere in the state of Florida who has a patron somewhere in the state legislature who has pushed this particular piece of legislation through because there is somewhere in the state of Florida a project of regional significance. You'll notice the term regional significance is in there. That they want to do, and they don't want the city, the state to own it. They want to give it over to that person. So that's
Might be a
really,
casino?
that's the way it goes in Tallahassee. So I don't think that is pertinent to our situation here. You will, when you get an unsolicited proposal, look at it via the section 255 in the state statute. So that's what we're talking about today. And my job today was to go over the details of our proposal, but I actually have a better idea that I thought of this morning. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you all, we need a thing here. David was going to hand these out to you. What I did was I took the proposal that the city attorney has provided you with, and I'm only dealing with pages 10, 11, 12, and 13. We're not going through the whole thing because we did not spend any time going over the solicited proposals, because a solicited proposal, you're in charge. So it's not an issue for us. We're only dealing here with the portion of the attorney's proposal that deals with unsolicited proposals, and that starts on page 10 of the document that they gave you. And with all of these little blue circles, I am comparing the council's recommendations to the actual proposal made by the city attorney. And I'm going to try and do this very efficiently, all right? So on page 10, the first blue bubble says that this is the council's comparison to the proposal for unsolicited proposals. And the first blue bubble, and the yellows are the areas of the proposal that I'm referring to. The first blue bubble refers to an issue that's been brought up actually previously, is should the city manager be the gatekeeper of these unsolicited proposals? It's currently in the proposal for the city attorney. The city manager may upon receipt of the unsolicited proposal, elect not to evaluate it. This is the pre-evaluation. And we understand that administratively that might be a good idea, but we question whether or not that gatekeeper function is the appropriate one, just for discussion, okay? The second blue bubble is where we think the process should start. We think the process should start when the commission receives an unsolicited proposal. It puts that unsolicited proposal up on the webpage for everyone to look at, and then you have a conference committee meeting. And that's part of the city attorney's proposal, is that we go to a conference committee. But we think that going to that conference committee, there should be some criteria in the ordinance stating what are we going to look at? Why are we going to the conference meeting? All right? What kind of issues are we going to be looking at? And we feel that that is the appropriate place where we should be talking about things like, is there a need for the facility? What is the land being used for now? Is there a better use for this land? What is the neighborhood impact of that proposal? So we think that at the conference committee stage, we should be encouraging a conversation between the commission and the community about, should we do this at all? And that's sometimes referred to as is there a public purpose involved? So that's where we think the process should start. And then we think that at that point, when you decide that you are going to go forward, that this is a public purpose, the proposal says something about upon the commission's consensus approval. We didn't understand what that meant. Does that mean you have to unanimously approve it or not? Just a question in my mind for the city attorney. What did he mean by unanimous? I would be delighted if it meant 100%. Everybody agrees that there's a public purpose and we're going to move forward, but I'm not sure that's what he meant. And then when you turn the page to page 11, okay, there's very good notice. Not only do you have to provide the statutory required notice, but you will now be providing notice to the neighborhoods, which was one of our concerns. So that was a very good addition. And you're establishing criteria for the evaluation portion of this. You know, don't forget, we're past the public purpose. Now we're into evaluation. And we think that there should be specifics as to the evaluation criteria. So if you're going to post this proposal and ask for people to provide competitive proposals, then you should specify what it is you're looking for and what are the criteria you're going to use to evaluate. And one of the real concerns we have is once these things are posted for the public to look at, or for competitive proposals to come in, the original proposal should not change. And that we have a real big problem here because the city attorney has included language that the entity submitting the original unsolicited proposal may submit a more detailed proposal in response to the city's notice. Absolutely not. That is totally uncompetitive.
Do you want us to hold questions to the end or as we go along?
I'm happy to entertain
Dean,
the
what would you prefer?
mayor's pleasure.
Okay. At what point what point does the clock start ticking? In other words, let's go back to one of the things you said a little earlier. At what point do we accept the initial payment from the deposit from the proposer? Is it after the conference and we've determined that there is a public purpose, or do you start it before that?
My understanding is once you have all agreed, based on the criteria I just described, that this is a public purpose and you set out the notice, that's when the time clock starts. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So it would come to us for conference, and if at the end of conference we determine there is a public purpose, that's when the clock starts, not when they
That's
first come
my
up to the city
understanding,
manager.
But I think it says consensus, so that would be 3 people, not all of us agree.
He's going to explain, I hope, what he meant when he said consensus. I hope it means unanimous.
It does not mean
It
unanimous.
means 3.
So the initial question with regards to the fee is required when the application is submitted. Whether or not the city chooses to evaluate the application determines whether or not we return the fee. But they have to submit the fee with the proposal.
Right, but to answer your question, when do we cash the check? When
the city decides,
when this consensus is achieved by the commission and we instruct the city manager to proceed, with evaluating it, then we cash the check.
And that's when the clock starts.
That's when the
Correct.
clock
The
Okay,
clock starts when there's a notice of intent to enter into a comprehensive agreement, and that's when the request for additional proposals goes out.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. All right, so consensus doesn't mean unanimous. That's a problem for us, but again, that's for discussion.
It's worked so far.
Okay. So once we've posted it and we get competitive bids back and the original proposal doesn't get a freebie to enhance his proposal at the non-competitive expense of the other proposals, then the sealed proposals are submitted through the city's online procurement bidding process. That's a great improvement, because that's a process that we're all familiar with, and it's transparent, and it has a web page and a portal, and people can go and look at it. So that's a big improvement.
So, all right, so this is where I'm a little confused then.
Okay.
Is it sealed or is it online? If it's
Sealed?
sealed, that means it's concealed.
Okay.
So we have to make a decision. Right now, it's not, the first couple of times we had unsolicited proposals, they were sealed and concealed so that the other people can't copy what the first guys have come up with. You know, if you want to do something on this site, you come up with your own proposal, don't copy this one. So we have to make the decision as to how do we want to proceed going forward. Do we want the proposal to be available to the public for other bidders to copy and examine and make decisions, or do we want the initial proponent to be able to have a certain proprietary interest in what they've submitted, and therefore if someone else has some other interest in what should be done on that property, they can't copy the first person's.
I understand what your concern is, but we're talking about two different stages in the proposal. Okay?
No, but it's still-
This is upon receipt of the proposals. Everybody
Right.
has put them in.
Right,
So
but-
it'd be like Lockhart when we got two proposals back. Okay?
Yes, but it was concealed. The
But
first the stadium was not. The stadium proposal was
Not
not.
the stadium. I'm talking about.
But if I can jump in on that too. So the original drafting of the state statute required them to be confidential.
Right, but
And
no
that was the
longer.
problem. Then that changed.
That changed.
Because they realized it was not in the public's best interest. So they no longer are required to be confidential, which they had to be when we first went down this path.
That was a big
So now that
improvement in the
requires-
statute.
So this idea of sealed proposal.
That's
just
their
take-
idea.
We just take the word out.
I would appreciate if you would do that. Yes. Okay. I'm just comparing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, and by the way, thank you for your insight. I think your experience also supports us getting better. One of the questions, one of the things that you propose is that you said that if an unsolicited proposal is submitted, that it should not change at any given point. Is that your point?
No, there is that once it's noticed that you have an intent, and you say we have an intent to do A, B, C, D, E,
Right.
which is what the original proposal was, and you encourage people to compete on that basis, the first guy doesn't get the option to change. He
They can
can't now
add-
say, "Oh, and I'll throw in an aquarium too."
Well, wait a minute. They can add to the proposal.
Why?
Well, because
What?
let me give you an example. When Inter Miami first stepped forward with their proposal, they didn't include a football field. And they were able to add it as we went through the negotiation process. They're
As you
just-
went through the negotiation process.
Right. So you're saying they're not allowed to change.
I'm saying that competing proposals, okay? One proposal is the original proposal, and you put that out and say, okay, we're asking you to bid on make a competitive bid for this proposal. Then you have to look at similar proposals.
Well, that I
if you put
understand.
it out, you could do this. If you put out the original proposal and then you say, and you could include the following things if you want to, then everybody has a fair chance.
So-
We're only trying to make it competitively fair.
So let me see if I understand where you're getting at. So let's use the mayor's Lockhart example, right? So we have the original proposal, I'm going to build a soccer stadium.
Right.
And proposer number 2 says, I'm going to build a soccer stadium and a football field. Should proposer number 1 then be able to come back and modify their initial proposal and say, oh yeah, I'll do a football field too?
Yeah, I think there
That-
should be.
that's- so at
I
what
think there
point do
should
we
be a way to do
entertain
that.
that?
I think as we're
Right.
talking about this, you're fashioning the
Right.
policy issues here.
Right.
That's a policy issue.
I always want there to be the opportunity to be able to change.
But I guess the question, Mayor, and if I'm trying to understand, you know, if if I have bid number 1, which says I will give you a stadium, and bid number 2 is I'll give you a stadium and a football field. At that point, if we're evaluating those 2 proposals, clearly the one that's giving me 2 things is better than the one that's giving me 1 thing. Is it now fair to go back to bidder number 1 and give him a me too?
Well, that's
Or
a
do you-
policy
right.
decision that you guys
Well,
have to
and
make.
that's, so I'm just trying to understand in the context of what you're suggesting, when do we allow them to do a me too? When do we allow that change? Is it during this process, or do we then say, no, we're going to go with bid number 1, and then we're going to negotiate enhancements to it after we've decided to move forward to the comprehensive agreement? So at what point do we allow the me too?
Maybe at some point it's a 2-step process.
Okay.
You send it out the first time,
Right.
and then the guy says, "And I'll give you X more." Then you go back to the other guy and say, "We're going to repost this,
Best and
renotice
finals.
this."
Best and finals. Okay.
Best and final.
Okay.
Something like that.
Well,
okay?
best and final is important because honestly, the second guy got to see what the first guy was doing to begin with. So why should he have the advantage or she?
That's the risk of the unsolicited P3 process. So when you put it out there with the unsolicited P3, you take that risk when you come forward with your idea. You hope your idea is, and here's the advantage to the original submittal, is that they've been working on it sometimes 2 years in advance, whereas the person who has to put up another bid may have 21 days. So the person who submits first has the advantage of all the time in the world to craft their best foot forward. The respondent is throwing something together overnight virtually, and so they're taking on a lot more risk because they don't understand all the aspects of the deal the way the first person does. The first person has an first mover advantage, as we call it in the tech world, right? So first mover advantage is huge.
All right, so there are competing equities.
Yes,
Okay,
there are.
and we'll have to figure out what's the best path.
Exactly. Exactly.
I like the
It's
best
a
and final.
process.
I think
It's
the
a
best and
process.
final is the best.
Okay.
I have a comment about that. Labeling it best and final means that that's going to be it, and there's no further negotiation into the comprehensive
No, best
No,
and final
no.
in terms of
Of that
selecting who we
phase.
move forward with.
of that phase.
Of who you're taking to the dance.
There you go.
All
All
right,
right.
It could be sweetened after that fact, though.
That's right. Then you can enhance what you're doing once you get to the dance.
Yeah, once you get to the
Okay,
comprehensive
okay.
agreement, then you're down to the details. Then you can add things
The
to it.
corsage and,
Yeah, that's right. The
Limo
corsage.
and yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Photographer.
Moving along. The city attorney's proposal would make the city's chief procurement officer the evaluator, which we think is a good idea. I mean, he has experience in that. The experience he has, though, is contract type experience, and you may want to add some additional
Expertise.
expertise to
on
him.
subject matter expertise.
Yes, you
exactly.
may want to do that.
Yeah.
That's very reasonable. But
Yeah.
the process is, we believe, the correct process. Okay, now once the evaluation is done, okay,
What page are we on?
you're still on page 11.
Okay.
All right, so in the event, after reviewing and evaluating the committee's recommendation, the city manager may, and here again is the city manager as the gatekeeper, the evaluation and recommendation of the procurement officer does not go directly to you, it goes to the city manager, who then has the ability at his discretion, no offense, at his discretion, to accept or reject. I don't think any city manager worth his salt would do that without coming back and consulting to you, but that's what it says, and we think that's a problem.
We're trying to. We need to pull that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then now you go to page 12, and the next blue bullet.
Unless the city manager says, "I don't think you did enough evaluation," go back.
Then you
and
can go back. Going
back.
back is no problem,
Right.
but unilaterally saying, no, we're not going to do that should be your decision.
Yeah.
All right, so now
By
we're
consensus.
on page 12. We'll get to that. Okay, so now we get to the award process. You've evaluated and you've figured out that this is the guy you want to go with and this is the project you want to go with. You give an award. That's the language of the statute. It's an award. Okay, and you say now there is an additional criteria. The criteria is the award shall be made to the highest ranked responsible proposer, which is the language strictly out of the a contract negotiation, which is good. That's a good addition. All right, it gives you it's got to be the best proposal. All right, but then it says the city commission action, after reviewing the city manager's recommendation, the commission may approve the project or reject the project. We think that that requires 2 public hearings. We think it's absolutely necessary that once you've gotten down to a specific project with enough detail for you to make a decision and you're comfortable, then you should hold 2 public hearings and let the public react to it. And you should consider what the public has to say before you approve it or disapprove it at the second public hearing. So that's our recommendation.
I think that's critical. 100% right.
Okay. And then we, of course, say that when you make that award, it should be by a supermajority, and if it involves parks, it should be unanimous. We're very, very concerned about a situation which, 3 people are at the commission, at the agenda that day, and a decision gets made with 3 commissioners. We just feel like PDDs and things like that are significant,
Right.
It should be at least a supermajority.
You're talking about converting already approved and designated park space to something else.
If the P3 proposal involves city-owned parks, a park, like holiday park.
Right.
That holiday park
I
one,
understand that, but isn't that already an ordinance?
it's in the charter.
Yeah.
It's in the charter, but you know what happens. Oh, well, we're not selling it, we're leasing it, we're licensing it. Let's just put it in the ordinance, okay? If it involves a city-owned park, it requires unanimous. Our opinion.
Okay.
Okay?
Wait, one more while I got you.
Yeah.
So we have things that we have not yet rezoned to parks. We use them as parks. So when you say
That's the
city-owned
point.
park,
No,
let's
darling,
be
we've
clear
got you
about what a
covered
park
on
is.
that. Thank
That's
you,
what-
Mr. Mayor. For a year and a half ago, when Lauderdale Tomorrow came to you and pointed out that there were pieces of park property that were not zoned, you
Right.
said, get with the city staff, which we did, and we're now rezoning them all.
We're getting there. We're
Yes.
not done yet.
We're
No, but
getting
we
close.
did
That's
a
what I'm saying.
lot.
There's
And
still more coming.
believe me, we're following everyone. We have a list. Okay, so
Yes, I've got one
you're
coming
doing
up
good on
myself.
that
Your
one.
3 minutes is almost up.
Okay.
now.
We're getting there.
I'm almost finished. All right. Oh, okay. Now, once you've done this, you've made the award, you go into the comprehensive agreement, you make the comprehensive agreement, and in our comprehensive agreements, we usually say awards made by the City Commission shall include the authority for all subsequent options or renewals, if any. The aforementioned options or renewals shall be exercised at the option of the city manager, subject to confirmation by the City Commission if, after review and past performance, the city manager determines in his or her sole discretion that the elements of the agreement are in a form acceptable to the Commission. I'm a little confused by what this means, but what we really actually are concerned about is there should absolutely not be renewals written into the contract without specific monitoring and reporting to the Commission on how's it going, okay? This should not be, we signed it and it's done and it disappears into the bureaucracy. As much as I have been the bureaucracy and I love the bureaucracy, that should not be. It should be your job to review the monitoring.
Or approve to. You didn't say approve.
Absolutely approved.
Okay, so, okay, approval to,
Okay,
right.
and we also, it's not here, but we also had a robust discussion about this idea of, you do these things for 50 years and then there's 25 years and 25 years. Whatever happened to 30 years and then another 20 years and another 20 years? But that's a discussion for another that's a policy decision that you all have to grapple with on your own. So that would conclude my comparison of the city attorney's first draft of this, or actually it's your second draft of this, and our response to his second draft.
Okay.
And what I would, hopefully you would do, hopefully, this is my suggestion to you all, if you would give us 2 hours of quality time with the city attorney and instruct the city attorney to work with us to try and incorporate some of these decisions.
That on anybody.
we could knock this out, and I sincerely disagree with Commissioner Glassman that there's no urgency here, because the what's happening in Tallahassee.
Well, no, please don't put words in my
no,
mouth.
I
I
know
did not
what you're
mean
saying.
there's no urgency here. I did not say that.
What he's
I'm
saying
glad
is
you
that
said
the
that.
July,
No.
the July date has not yet reached
we can't
us.
do anything till
We
July.
can't do
but
anything, so there's no.
right.
What's the hurry?
Yeah,
you
please,
say?
please don't do that.
Okay, well
Thank
then
you.
let me
But
refine
this
what
has
I
been
just
very,
said.
this has been very educational and instructive.
All right, thank
so
you.
trust me, I'm glad we moved forward. You've allowed us the opportunity to review some of the issues and concepts so that when the July date does approach, we'll be in a better position to make any decisions.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mayor, one other thing too, we could adopt something right now, and just like we do with our ULDR, we update it all the time. So if we need to come back and revisit this and add, an addendum to it in July or August, I don't think that's problematic.
Well,
But
I think
let's get the meat on this thing, and we can decorate it later.
Yeah, well, I think there's still a lot of this is not final form. This is not. I think this is just here for discussion purposes, and I think the city attorney is hearing the feedback and can come back to us with a cleaned up version of this.
I get that. I just don't want to wait till September or October to adopt something.
No, I agree, but I mean we're still operating under an existing statute, so it's not like we can't function with unsolicited proposals. It's just this is a further evaluation of them. So, Mr. Ansara.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ted Ansara, president of the River Oaks.
Excuse me, and then Chris, you're the last person. Thank you.
Civic Association. Wow, it's hard to follow the M&M girls, Marilyn and Mary. Much respect to
you're
what
so
they have.
sweet.
I mean, I agree with everything that they brought forward. I'm surprised we didn't have anything like that already on the books, because a lot of it to me was just common sense. And one thing that Commissioner Herbst was talking about, we have tonight P3, 4, 5, and 6, which I'm for, which will be rezoning from residential to parks, open spaces. So, as many as they'll come up, please, we need to keep on approving them. And just another thing off record, I see a lot of eating and everything up here. They took my popcorn at the door. I couldn't even bring in my bag of popcorn. And I see everybody here, but that's a whole other story. But, P3s, I have a love-hate relationship with them. I know some things like the water treatment plant, big projects, I understand. But a lot of it, when it comes down to city property and city things, that I really have a big problem with. And a lot of great things that Marilyn brought up about, is there a better use for the land? I take, for example, I know Ms. Bogdanoff is here. Take Snyder Park, for example. Was there a better use for that land? And I think, leave it alone. And that would have been a much better use for that land. How about the neighborhood impact? It seems like that did not matter at any time during those negotiations of Snyder Park. And it's a huge impact. I don't know if I was on Commissioner Sturman's Zoom meeting last night, and Kitty McGowan had a great speech about what's happening in her neighborhood now with just the construction trucks, the 18-wheelers just continually rambling down our residential streets, and what an impact that it's had. And I know a lot of you commissioners...
Are 18-wheelers going down the residential streets?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Greg, we talked about this. You want to just update? Yeah.
They're dump trucks, not 18-wheelers that we know of and that we've addressed and that we have ample code and enforcement. We actually ticketed 2 weekends ago. Assistant City Manager Fajardo was handling that, but I don't know about 18-wheelers. I do know about
But
dump
even
trucks.
the dump trucks, they're not going through the neighborhoods, are they?
There are some.
They were.
They were, but we resolved it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see but I love the transparency part. I know a lot of you guys stress about the civic associations, how they're the backbone of the city, how important they are. And that only seems to matter when in certain circumstances. Like I know all the surrounding civic associations of Snyder Park were 100% against the development. And it just the one more thing I think that we were trying to use was the word morph, that I really like that word in their presentation. It cannot morph into something else. And this original agreement that was voted on by the past commission, except our commissioner at the time because he wasn't there, was that agreement has morphed into something completely different than what is happening now. And that just seems to be accepted. I mean, we can go over a long list of items that was voted on, and now is what is actually going to happen. But thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. And
thank you.
Maybe I can keep my popcorn next time.
Ted,
Yes.
come here for a second.
Yes,
I think I speak on behalf of the whole city commission.
And it's even pop. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the problem is the bag is empty, though. Chris? It's got fried wonton in it.
Hey, what's up, commissioners?
For the record, that was popcorn, by the way.
Okay. Mayor Dean, you better not have sent him an empty bag there.
Vote buying. I'm just telling you, vote buying. Watch out.
Yeah, exactly. All right, great to see you guys. Chris Nelson. Have you guys seen how nice it is outside? And we're all sitting in here. My goodness. It's like nice out there. But great to see you guys at the Fort Lauderdale parade, the St. Patty's Day parade. That was great. I'm liking Tunnel Top Park. I also
Plaza.
I'm starting to like it. Tunnel Top Plaza. It's good.
It doesn't look like much of a park yet, but we're getting there.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress, yes.
But I am starting to appreciate it. And I used this morning the Fix It app, which is the new Fort Lauderdale app.
Oh, has it been fixed?
I hope so, because I used that this morning to report some graffiti. So
and you got through and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it went through. It sent me back a tag. So if anybody's got some problems, I think that app's going to be a great idea. Going to be a great thing. So very cool. So thank you, Marilyn, for that great for those great details. Wow, you know a lot about this, and I always enjoy listening to Marilyn and my kindred spirit, Mr. Ted and Sarah, whose mural got retroactively approved yesterday at the Art Board. Very cool to see government working for people. So, yeah, the food thing.
Was that the mural that wasn't approved, but has now been approved?
It is now approved. That's right, retroactive.
Well, it wasn't that the mural wasn't approved. It's just that nobody went through the process of getting the mural approved.
Right.
Processes can be overrated.
That wasn't the graffiti you reported, was it?
Well, there's a difference between art and graffiti, okay?
Okay.
So, and this mural's beautiful. So, with the, about this topic, the public-private partnerships, I heard the idea of 2 public hearings. That's great. I heard somebody say something about bypassing public debate, and that made me go, whoa, because we definitely don't want to do that. So I think two public hearings. There should be 2 public hearings on everything, so everybody can come to speak. Because, when it comes to these things, we put our trust in you guys. I mean, there's a lot of things we don't know about that goes on, that people are going about their day and they're busy, and we put trust in you guys that there's not going to be any favors done, any buddies or anything like that, that you guys are going to work with integrity and for the best interest of the taxpayer. So that's what we elect you guys to do, and trust that you do. And I think that I've gotten involved in the Fort Lauderdale Civic Association, and boy, these civic associations are great. And getting to listen to, getting input from what they say, because nobody knows the neighborhood better than the people that actually live there. And they can let you know about things that you might not know about when it comes to anybody that comes in with a great idea, because everybody's got great ideas for pieces of land in Fort Lauderdale now. So anyway, I know you guys are in a meeting all day, but I think I'm going to get out and enjoy some of that great weather. It's beautiful out.
Really?
It is. It's beautiful beach weather. So
just think how
anyway.
much more you can learn if you sat here and listened to it.
Well, how about this? I'll be sitting at the beach, listening to Mayor Dean at the Fort Lauderdale Commission meeting. How about that? All right, guys.
Chris.
Thanks for letting me speak. Great to see you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item?
Chris, catch. No, I'm all out. Never mind.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, there being none. Any of the members of the commission have anything further other than to? I think we've given a lot of instruction to the city attorney.
Well, one of the key things that you keep over and over again, and this is what prompted way back when I suggested that we take this up, is that 2 public hearings, giving us time to go over it. And I think that we're hearing that loud and clear. I just want to reiterate that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dwayne Spence. And our next item is a closed-door session. So where are we going for that?
Do we have to wait till 4?
I believe that's time certain.
All right. So why don't we go through the city commission reports then? We're not. This is a time certain at 4:30. So we'll try to get there as close as possible. So we'll do commission reports now. John, do you have any reports?
I do not.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. excited to share some of the events and the opportunities I've had since the last time we met. On Wednesday, March 6th, I attended the Women's Trailblazers of Fort Lauderdale that was held at the Galleria Mall. I was given the honor to read the proclamation giving honorees that recognition that was given to them, being recognized by Fort Lauderdale Historical Society. Also on Thursday, May 7th, I did attend the Broward League of Cities luncheon, the board meeting. It was held over in Woodland Manors, and great as always, great information was shared. There was a great conversation regarding the school board and the superintendent with the letter that was sent to all the city mayors and city managers regarding the conversation of the schools that are being considered for repurposing and possibly closed. Would like for us as a dais to talk about that as well as we move forward, if you have any information regarding it.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, we are looking at bringing a representative from the school board to bring forth all the specific details so you all can hear what those perhaps potential proposals are out there. I'll tell you that before city manager's office presents any position of support or interest, we certainly consider your feedback and direction. So we did not participate in any letters of interest or support until we have that conversation with you all. So they'll be coming perhaps in April. Is that right, ACM Grant? Yeah, sometime in April they'll be coming over and giving you all those specifics.
Okay, wonderful. Because that was one of my concerns when I learned about the letter that was sent asking for support, and wanted to make sure that we, as a dais, was given as a whole, given our input in the direction we would like to go regarding the input. Thank you. On Friday, May 8th, I was given the opportunity, recognizing and being honoring International Women's History Day. I was invited over to William Dandy Middle School, bless you, to partake in the Girls Empowerment Day, and I was able to greet, it was 460 plus young ladies that were in the room, and I was one of the speakers along with, there was a total, I believe, 8 other women from Broward County that were there also to just give encouragement and share life history and life experiences with the young ladies in the room. Great opportunity. On that Sunday, May 10th through, March 10th, I'm already ready for May as well. What's going on in May? Oh, that's Mother's Day weekend. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, so March 10th through March 13th, I was in Washington, D.C., attending the National League of Cities Congressional Conference. Again, a great opportunity.
That was in D.C., yeah.
That was in D.C. Had opportunity to meet again with, let me start this way. The President of the United States addressed the audience. That was a great opportunity to be in the room with him, to hear again about the initiatives that he's that he's sharing, still pushing, which is something we need to grab onto as much as we can, the infrastructure bill, and gave a lot of conversation about infrastructure pertaining to connectivity with broadband and Wi-Fi, that manner. So we did have a conversation with Daphne saying, let's see what else we can apply for to see how to make sure that the citywide is adequately covered with broadband and connectivity. Also had the opportunity to meet with and have a conversation with the Honorable Julie A. Sue, who's the Acting Secretary for the U.S. Department of Labor. She is also the overseer for Good Jobs, Great Cities. So we were able to have a conversation with her, expressing our appreciation for being selected to be one of the cities who's participating in the Academy for Great Jobs, Great Cities. And that was a great opportunity. It was cold in D.C., you all. It was 40 degrees when we got there. And when we left, it was like 72. And I did get to see some of the cherry blossom. There were some that had blossom. So great opportunity overall. Also coming back, while I was away on March 13th, you all heard me last session. I was so excited to share that Sprouts food chain, they have a mobile food pantry, and they made a connection with District 3, and they're coming and bringing their mobile food pantry on the 6 Trunk corridor. And on the 13th, they came out again, and we had great participation. This mobile food pantry, they're selling items, fresh fruits and vegetables, and the prices range from $1 to $5. So this is a great opportunity, given an opportunity to provide what's needed in what we know to be a food desert, food insecurity area, and it is truly being embraced. And I don't have the final numbers, but the numbers had significantly increased from the month before. So we do have plans to do this in April, May, and I believe June. Those are the agreed upon dates right now. So you'll hear me continue to talk about that. Again, it's a great opportunity. On Thursday, March 14th, there was a lot going on. With some of my colleagues, we were able to attend the Downtown Awards, honoring Mr. Bill Walker as the Downtowner of the Year. Great opportunity to celebrate with Bill and acknowledge the great things that he's doing in our city. Also, the same afternoon, I was able to meet with staff and also the 6 Trunk Festival Committee, having a debriefing regarding the wonderful event that we had on the corridor in February for the 6 Trunk Festival and Parade. They were able to share with us, they being the committee, that there was 75 entries in the parade this year, and they have a goal for the upcoming year. They're hoping to see 100 entries, and they're also planning to encourage the entries to begin to do floats, kind of bring this up to a higher level. Nice. So we're looking forward to watching it transition to a higher level. Also, we talked about having more events that would include the youth between the ages of like 11 to about 16. We still have a gap with that and keeping them engaged. So that is something that was discussed. Police was with us as well. Overall, it was a great event. They gave us a report as well. Later in that evening, 5 o'clock at Smitty's, it was the Special Olympics tip-a-cop opportunity, and we went and we participated with the District 2 police with their event that they were hosting at Smitty's. It was a great turnout. Also on that very evening, I attended the Lake Air Civic Association's meetings concerning addressing some of the concerns and questions that they had for us as me as the commissioner, then also overall for the city. There was still the conversation regarding what we are doing pertaining to the 18-wheelers that are utilizing the 19th Street corridor, and we explained about how we are looking at ordinance to see how we can trim that to be a better and a safer environment for everyone in the community. We also talked about the speeders in the school zone, so I was able to share with them about the pilot program for the school zone cameras. So that was embraced by the neighbors as well. Moving on to Friday, May 15th, I did have a conversation with Chief Schultz, our police chief, giving us an update regarding the gun violence and the action plan that's being utilized right now. One of the lieutenants, Oxtes, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the last name correctly, but he is he shared the Operation Ceasefire. It's a proactive approach to maintaining peace and addressing the increasing violence, crimes, gun violence, and quality of life issues in the district. Also, they shared with us the district has an average 3 per day incidents. 9 arrests have been made in conjunctions with these types of incidents. Also, knowing that they are focusing on the 19th Street and 31st Avenue area. That's a hot spot. Also, in the Lauderdale Manors community, the Chateau Park Drive area. So these are some of the areas that are being targeted to combat the violence and the activities. And to date, it's been an 81-day program that's been really overseen by the Rapid Offender Control Unit, and they recovered 57 firearms and 35 arrests have been made. So these are some opportunities to combat and bring those guns off the street.
And what period of time did that take?
This was from, it was started in December.
Of 2023?
2023. So it's like a 81-day time span with what has been achieved.
Wow.
Yes, yes. So that gives us, as a commissioner, it gives me reassurance that we are working towards making a change. Our police is aware, they are focused, and they are addressing the currents and those concerns and the issues that are facing our district overall. Also, on the 15th, from there, I did attend the St. Patrick's Day street striping. I enjoyed that. I got to get my little artwork on a little bit. Hey, what is that? Art 101, stay in the lines. I was able to paint and stay in the lines. Also, on the Saturday, attended the St. Patrick's Day parade. I truly, truly enjoyed myself, and I try to be as transparent as I can. This was long-time resident of the city of Fort Lauderdale. This is my first time attending the St. Patrick's Day parade, and I really and truly enjoyed myself. And it spoke to me as an opportunity that we, as a city, we have to understand everything is for us in the city. Let's step out of our boxes sometime and see what else is being shared throughout the city. And again, I'm truly glad that I was able to attend, and I look forward to encouraging everyone who I talk to about attending such events. Also, on the 17th, Sunday the 17th, I attended a cotillion that is called the T. Rose Cotillion, offered and hosted by the AKAs of Pompano. But I attended because one of the students who really follows Fort Lauderdale civic process and is engaged with everything we're doing in the city. Her name is Chastity Roker. And again, she is a senior at Dillard High School, and she was a participant. And I'm excited. I was excited with her on Sunday. She was awarded scholarships, and also she was identified and crowned as the queen of the event. And that comes also with additional scholarships. So Chastity Roker, congratulations, and continue to do the amazing, great things that you're doing. She volunteers wherever she can, and she's also a member of the Junior ROCT at Dillard High School. And also, she's been here. She's recited the pledge with us when we first began the process. So thank you for that. Also, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with staff Josh Carden and also Madden Stovier, and Renee and Space. Those other two individuals, I don't have the last names. And this was a conversation regarding the Avenue of the Arts Festival, and we talked about the murals that was painted this year, also in District 3, and then having a conversation as how moving forward in the years ahead, how we can collaborate and be a part of that festival within District 3. Also, I wanted to bring to the dais a conversation. I mentioned it the last time we shared our reports, and this is regarding the FLAC's Workforce Economic Development Program. And I'm asking that City Manager, if we could have staff to move in a direction to help us begin this process. And again, with what this development program offers, their mission is to employ, educate, and empower young entrepreneurs. It's a 26-week program that has career readiness opportunities, which is designed to address the wealth and health gap in underserved communities. So if we could add that to our list of things that we would like to address.
We will follow up, and specifically Public Affairs will be doing that as its entrepreneur base.
Yes, okay, thank you. And also want to share with the upcoming events in District 3 and also as citywide events. Let us all be reminded that on Saturday the 23rd at the Beach Community Center, we have the Reimagine City Hall Workshop number 4, and we will discuss finance and procurement. Also on the 23rd, throughout the district, and I'm sure through the city as well, there are identified egg hunts at different parks. There is one at Riverland Park, Bass Park, and also Mills Pond. So let us go out and have an opportunity to interact with what's being offered on those Saturdays as well. Also on April 12th, we have the Friday night musicals, which will be held at Riverland Park Community Center. It starts at 7 p.m., ends at 10. A great opportunity to come out and enjoy some great Latin music. Get your salsa on, have a good time. I'm going to be there. I'm hoping to see some others there. Also, Thursday, April 18th, 4 to 6:30 p.m., Sprouts Bus Mobile Market Pantry will be again in place at the parking lot across from Lincoln Park. The address is 544 Northwest 19th Avenue. And again, the goal is every third Thursday of the month through the month of June. Again, the mobile food bus, nothing on the bus costs more than $5. Okay? Also, Carter Park Jams is coming up on April 19th. And
a lot going on.
It is. Every time I start this, I hear my colleague, Commissioner Glassman, saying, they told you it was a part-time job. And that concludes my report. Thank you, everyone,
great.
for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Glassman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
So what's going on in District 2?
District 2, always a busy place. Wednesday, March 6th, we had that wonderful ceremony over at the Chabad Lubavitch at the Galt, where we did the street naming, secondary street naming for Chabad Drive, Northeast 35th Street. A really nice celebration. Also that night was the Victoria Park Civic Association meeting. Thursday, March 7th, I attended the Marine Advisory Board just to share some ideas, give some updates, and also to thank those volunteers for the work that they do. Very important board and advisory board for us. Friday, March 8th, had the pleasure of attending another business opening in Flagler Village, Palma Tavern. And then on Saturday, March 9th, another business opening with the Chamber for the ribbon cutting for McSorley's. Really nice events. It's always a pleasure to participate in business ribbon cuttings. Monday, March 11th, and then also on Thursday, March 14th. This was a really interesting experience, and I just wanted to say a few words about it because I want to thank our Public Works Department for putting this together and engaging the Urban Land Institute to convene that advisory panel. I was so impressed with the expertise of this panel, these volunteers that came to us from all across the country. And the work was excellent. On Monday, March 11th, we had the public listening session over at the Museum of Discovery and Science, where the public had a chance to speak. I also know that after that listening session, we had given some names of stakeholders that we thought were important. So that panel did then conduct more interviews after that listening session with residential folks, commercial folks, real estate, developers, transportation planners, utility experts, lawyers, etc., from every side of the issue. And those listening sessions and those interviews were conducted over the next few days. It was a really great exercise. On Thursday, March 14th, that panel, that advisory panel, reconvened at the L.A. Lee YMCA in the morning to basically give an overview of their findings. Very, very informative, very educational, and I do so look forward to their very detailed report that we'll all be getting, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. This is important work. They are looking at everything dealing with what we're facing in the future with regards to sea level rise and how that impacts our city. They did a great job in putting together everything that you might want to consider and know, including the last resort, which would be road elevation. But again, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to Public Works for engaging that group. ULI has been very instrumental in helping us guide a lot of discussions. But this was a very informative panel. And I think once we see the report, I think we will also know that that work was really commendable. And I'm sure Public Works will be giving us a detailed report at a conference meeting explaining exactly what might happen with those 3 days, 11, 12, actually 4 days that they were here. So I just wanted to comment on that. On March 14th, as Vice Mayor mentioned, we did have the event for the Downtowner of the Year. Again, congratulations to Bill Walker. That evening, I also attended a public meeting. It was done both virtually and in person. We had the A1A crosswalk public meetings. FDOT will be doing two very important intersection works of public crosswalks and also lights at Northeast 14th Court and then Northeast 27th Street on A1A. So that was a very good meeting. Looking forward to that work to help the pedestrian experience along A1A. On Friday, March 15th, as the Vice Mayor mentioned, we did have the street striping, always a wonderful celebration. Saturday, March 16th, again, the St. Patrick's Day Parade and Festival. And then yesterday, Mayor, I hope that you had a good, clean Monday. I know that that is I do know that that is a Greek tradition, and hopefully you participated. I did not know that much about it until I read about it, and throwing a flower, F-L-O-U-R, not F-L-O-W-E-R, but that's an interesting tradition for the beginning of Lent that ends on the Orthodox Easter Sunday. So I hope you had a good clean Monday.
White powder all over.
White powder from Clean Monday?
Gluten-free, too.
It's gluten-free. That's a good thing. Again, congratulations on yesterday's...
Well, you know what that represents. The Greek Orthodox, the Orthodox Church celebrates this year its Easter later in time than the Western Christian Church. So yesterday was the beginning of our Lent.
Yes, I think I just said that, actually.
Yes. So, but the flower thing is something unique to a certain area. It's not really practiced traditionally by most Greek households.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Just a certain area of Greece?
Yes.
But not yours?
Not ours, no.
Okay. Well, maybe you need to look at property in that part of Greece, and you'll be able to participate in a future Clean Monday.
I think so. I'll bring it to the commission for approval by consensus.
Excellent. Thank you. Consensus is only 3 people. Coming up, Wednesday, March 20th, we have a big day in District 2 in Holiday Park where we're going
What's happening?
Well, the Panthers, believe it, just a little less than 3 years since we had the groundbreaking, we are actually going to have the grand opening of the Baptist Health Iceplex. That's going to be quite an event. So looking forward to that. Many of us have already been on tour, and we saw the side that the Panthers are already training in. But now we will also be opening very shortly the community rink as well, and then down the road the War Memorial Auditorium as well. So that's going to be.
So what are we opening tomorrow then? The community as well as the practice rink?
Yes, I think the rinks. We're going to be celebrating the rinks. Yes, tomorrow at I think 3 o'clock. And then
so the whole public's invited to this, correct?
Oh yes, this is
it's a public affair. I hope all the members of the commission can come. This is a real game changer for our city, and through the generosity of the Panther folks, we are going to be the beneficiaries of this amazing facility. So,
yes, it's a very exciting time for our city. After that, I'll head over to the Flagler Village Civic Association meeting, where I'll be speaking to that group and that brand new board of directors that has gotten off to a rousing start, and I wanted to congratulate them as well. Thursday, March 21, another very, very big day for our city. We will be doing the Fat Village groundbreaking, the Heinz Project with so many local partners. That is also, as you just said, a game changer. That is going to create quite a village within our city, within Flagler Village, because that project is really a tremendous project that incorporates so many uses, really everything from multifamily to lots of shops, and also a nice home also for some more artist spaces. But that's going to be quite an addition. I think that's about 5 blocks, if I'm not mistaken, along the railroad tracks. That also will be Wednesday, March 20th. I'm sorry, that's March 21st, Thursday. On March 25th, I'll be having a walkthrough with the brand new Flagler Village Civic Board to just take a look at the neighborhood, take a look at how we can do some improvements, because we do have some connectivity issues. We have some need for sidewalks there. As Flagler Village continues to redevelop, we have to look at ways to put it all together. We have to look at streetscape improvements. We have to really make sure that it's not just building and building and building and building, but we have to create that village there. We have to create that sense of place, that community. So I'm looking forward to that walk with the Flagler Village Civic Association Board of Directors on March 25th. The next night I'll be speaking at the South Middle River Civic Association on Tuesday, March 26th. Just a couple of comments. Mayor, if tonight, for a moment of silence, there are 2 people that I'd like to make sure that we recognize. One is George Young, the son of Virginia Schumann Young. That is a pioneer family that goes way back in Fort Lauderdale. He was 86 years old. He was also Broward College vice president, did a lot of civic-minded activities in our city. So if we could mention George Young, again, an amazing generation after generation after generation of pioneers in our city. And then also, we did recently lose Eric Berkowitz. Eric was quite a character, and I always so enjoyed my conversations with him and also the late Pio Aresi. For many years, the 2 of them were so active in the Galt Mile, and when I was active as the Central Beach Alliance president, because of the proximity of the 2 neighborhoods, we did so many things in conjunction with each other. Eric was a prolific writer. Whenever you read an article of his in the Galt newsletter, you better make sure that you had a good hour to read an article, because he just dug in such detail. Whatever he reported on, I was always amazed with the level that he really went into, the minutia, the weeds, whatever you want to say, but he was so thorough. He will be sorely missed. He was active in that association for decades. So if we could also just remember Eric Berkowitz as well. City Manager, I had a couple of questions. There have been some articles in the Sun Sentinel about the different tunnels beneath the FEC rail corridor. One actually saying that the city had agreed to spend $375,000 in the planning effort. But I was just wondering, are we ever going to have a discussion about this project and where this might go? I know that this isn't part of an application. The MPO is spearheading this, but I know it's part of that, $3.3 billion in transit-oriented grants that are designed to help cities like ours. But will we have a discussion about this? Will we be more educated about these 5 spots where these tunnels are going to hopefully go, or maybe not hopefully, but will we be more educated on this?
Yes, so Ben's going to answer some of those questions, and we did receive that notification from the MPO about those improvements that are forthcoming. Ben.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioner. Ben Rogers, Director of Transportation Mobility. So, Commissioner Glassman, back in September of 2023, the city partnered with the MPO to submit an application. It was a follow-up from the previous year where we submitted the same application or a similar project application for the Reconnecting Communities grant. And the feedback that we received from the grant that we weren't successful with, we took that feedback, we worked with the MPO, and we came up with this grant application. As part of the grant application, the city did commit to fund the local contribution amount, which was $375,000.
Okay, so thank you for that clarification. Will we have a discussion of what this could actually be, and a little bit more specificity in terms of these 5 areas that they're talking about, in terms of the tunnels below? Because they even say it's for cars also.
Well, let me chime in there.
Go ahead.
Okay, so at the last MPO meeting, it was announced that the MPO received $1.5 million under the Neighborhood Reconnectivity Program. And at that time, it was on the sheet of paper that was explaining it to us said it's about pedestrians and bicyclists. I said, well, this isn't going to get us anywhere because, first of all, most people feel a little threatened by underground pedestrian tunnels. We have one on the beach which no one uses. And I said, I'm hoping that this also allows for vehicular traffic. And at that point, Greg Stewart said, oh, yeah, I meant to say vehicular traffic too. Okay, I don't know if that was part of the original application, but because what the genesis of all this was that when we were talking about commuter rail through the city of Fort Lauderdale, the county came to us and was trying to negotiate with us what would be an appropriate method for commuter rail to pass through our city. Originally, they were talking about these high-level bridges, and I came up with an idea of a low-level bridge with underground pathways at Broward, Sistrunk, Sunrise, and various, even as far as commercial, okay, to be able to accommodate vehicular traffic without having the obstruction of trains every time one of the commuter trains or Brightline trains or freight trains passed over the area. So the county came back to us, and there was a meeting with a number of us in which they said, great, love the idea, we'll do a 25-foot bridge. And that seemed like a great idea because it didn't obstruct anything. It didn't go through Flagler. It kind of ended at the beginning of the Brightline station, so we wouldn't have to rebuild the Brightline station. And then the Marine Industries Association said, wait a minute, we can't live with a 25-foot bridge, so this is a non-starter. Sorry, but this isn't going to work for us. So everyone went back to the drawing board, and that's when the county said, well, we're just going to do a bridge, and we're not really interested in anything you have to say. So nonetheless, the MPO still liked the idea of the underpasses because they felt that there was money for it through FDOT and and through the federal government, and they thought that this is something we could still do whether we did a bridge or a tunnel. And I said, well, would the underpasses obstruct the tunnel? And they said no, it can be designed so that it could accommodate both. So this is part of that program moving forward to continue to allow solutions to go under the tracks at these various intersections, because we all know what a nightmare it is at some of these intersections at Sunrise and Sistrunk and Oakland Park and Davie Boulevard. And this is part of that. So it came up at the last MPO meeting last week, and so that's why you saw 2 articles in the Sun Sentinel. And the second article was generated because I called the reporter and I said, "You missed something." He said, "No, I didn't. I wasn't told about it." So he confirmed it, and so there was a confirmation that we're going to have vehicular traffic also studied for those tunnels underneath the train tracks.
Thank you. Now, will this happen as a parallel path with the other discussion of the overall bridge or tunnel discussion that we've been having with the county?
But the question that we should ask is, how does this interface with our grant on reconnecting communities? Because I think our grant for $975,000, whatever the number is a broader scope of inquiry. It talks about economic impact. It talks about a lot more. Can you explain a little bit about that to us?
Yeah, so there's different scopes associated. What I think probably the next step would be is for me to go back with the news of this award, to go with the MPO, to get with Mr. Stewart, put together some talking points. And Commissioner Glassman, I believe that when we came back and did the resolution of support back in September of 23, there were some renderings that the MPO did that kind of identified or illustrated what the underpasses may look like. So I think it's probably best that we go back, we get on the same page with the MPO, talk about next steps. I'll work with the city manager's office and issue some kind of memorandum to provide an update. And then as we get closer through the process and we get into maybe the agreements or that phase, having the MPO come and maybe do a joint presentation at a conference meeting with the commission.
So help me understand, I think the $950,000 grant that we received, is that going to do its own thing, or are we going to work in conjunction with this $1.5 million grant that the MPO is applying for? Will they be overlap? How will these 2 grant applications
interface?
Thank you.
Yeah, so for the Regional Infrastructure Accelerator grant that we've partially executed, there are defined uses of the funds. And so what we'll do is continue to move that forward. And where the 2 projects overlap, absolutely we'll make sure that we take them into consideration and not have 2 silo reviews.
Okay, because the articles did say that this study would take about 18 months for the 5 areas with the, tunnels under the tracks.
Yeah, I do not know that. I would have to confirm with the MPO on that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Again, I read the articles. I didn't know that much about it. I just think, we need to just...
You want answers, you come to the commission.
Well, that's why I'm here. But we need to have a little bit more education, I think, as a commission on this topic.
I was going to get to it in my report, so...
Well, you were still recuperating from Clean Monday, so it's okay. I understand.
And Commissioner Glassman, I'd also say that we've been working with BDO on that tunnel alignment for both the vertical and horizontal route. And so we've taken that in consideration. Have had conversations with them that you could have the tunnel that BDO has presented, plus this underpass, plus the tracks. So it can all be stackable.
Thank you. Good. As long as we just stay educated and we're kept, informed, that'll be great. So, Ben, you might as well just say that. But the next comment I have is probably you can help me with. So we know that Tortuga's coming up on the beach. I've been hearing from the residents a lot about, obviously, people are getting excited about the Marina Village Phase 1. It looks like it's nearing completion now. But there is concern because that section in front of BMR has been just not able to accommodate pedestrians along that stretch of A1A, and that's a crucial stretch of A1A with regards to Tortuga for pedestrian safety. So what is our plan? Do we expect the fence, the cones, everything to come down? Do we expect that area to be usable so that pedestrians will have a safe passageway along that section of A1A?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. I've been working with the city manager's office and with DSD and staff on my team to review that. We do believe that there's a clear path that the work that's being done out there now should be done before Tortuga. However, if there's any kind of delays or unforeseen issues, we have deployed that lane reduction in the past so we could have a travel lane for pedestrians. And so we're prepared to do that if we need be. But right now we believe that the sidewalk would be open during Tortuga.
Okay, and that's what, the first week of April, I think, or the second week of April?
The first weekend.
First week? Yep. Third or fourth or something like that?
I think fourth and fifth.
Okay, good. So you do expect in a couple of weeks, Marina Village...
We don't think the whole thing would be completed.
No, but I mean the access.
But being able to push the fence back and utilize the sidewalk, that is our goal. And right now we believe that can be accomplished.
Okay, great. So as long as we're on top of that and we're planning and have a plan B in case it's just not, that'll be really important because that's been a tough area for pedestrian safety for a while now. I appreciate that. And then, as always, I just want you to know that I do hear consistently at my pre-agenda meetings just a little bit of nervousness out there, especially on the Barrier Island when it comes to events and it comes, to Tortuga, whatever else is coming. But people do feel that it's a lot, and I always know that I mention this, and I might mention this again tonight when we have our discussions of some of these events. But again, I think we just have to be a little bit, considerate of the fact that this is also a neighborhood, and I know that folks love to come to the beach, but public spaces are public spaces, and I think we just have to be, respectful of that when it comes to, all the events that we see happening. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And my last comment, Mayor, is I do want to talk about spring break. I'm always amazed when I see the media reports, whether it's local media and television included, whether it's national television, national news. For some reason, everyone loves to just make people think that we have these issues over spring break. But yet I'm not hearing that from the residents. I'm not hearing that from, local folks. In fact, I'm hearing the opposite. I'm hearing from the Central Beach Alliance. I'm hearing from residents on the Barrier Island. Please say thank you to the police department. Please say thank you to Parks and Rec. Please say thank you to Public Works. Please say thank you to code enforcement for just the way things are being handled with regards to spring break. But when I see these news reports, including news reports from the UK, and they talk about Fort Lauderdale, and then you see this pier in the background, and I'm going, well, when did we build a pier? It's not Fort Lauderdale, but they just love sensationalizing spring break as if we've inherited this nightmare from Miami Beach, which is just not true. And I know it's all about clicks and sensationalism. So I would love to hear from the chief, myth versus reality. I want to hear, what is the situation been? What has the arrest record been? How has this compared to the previous years? Because I would really like the record straight so that we are hearing this information firsthand. My office has received one complaint in the last couple of weeks about spring break. One. That's not exactly, an outpouring of concern. But I do want to hear from you, Chief, because I have been driving up and down A1A a lot. Are there a lot of people? Yes, of course, it's spring break. But from what I've been able to ascertain, things have been manageable. Things that, will people fight? Will young people fight? Of course they'll have a fight. There'll be a fight. But, what have we been doing? What has that been looking like? So if you could just shed some light on this, because I think it's so very important that the public and the media hears this to know exactly what is the situation on the ground.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Commissioners and Mayor. Bill Schultz, Police Chief. I'm happy to report that all of that you said has been reported in the media, has not happened here. Just for a bit of perspective, each year we begin planning in December for our collegiate spring break season. Among the many initiatives that we do, I author a letter that details to our visitors specifically our laws, our ordinances, but also our expectations of their behavior. And then the hotels give that out to every person who checks in. So that's a great step in proactive activity. But this year, I also added a similar letter, which we sent to the Dean of Students and to the student newspapers of the colleges that we know traditionally visit us during the season. And we've asked the Dean of Students to actively advise their students of the same. With that, we had our largest spring break crowds last week. It did start March 1st. And attendance has been pretty much on par for what we expected and what we've had in the past. We have not had any major incidents or disturbances resulting in arrest. We have had 14 arrests. Only 2 of them are out-of-town spring breakers, and that was for disorderly conduct. We have participated in multiple local and national media interviews, highlighting our positive tourism message, as well as our recruiting message for the police department and fire department. And I'm happy to report our recruiting has stated that we've had 67 applications and 46 job interest cards submitted as part of that.
I did participate in that push-up contest, just so you know, but I was rejected on the same.
No, I heard you made it to second.
Oh,
no?
well.
I think you were overqualified.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief.
And Commissioner, with that, I'd just like to thank at this time our officers, our public service aides, our traffic and parking staff, our lifeguards, our fire rescue, our public works, and our parks and recreation team for their outstanding efforts. It's very commendable, the efforts they've put forth to provide this very safe atmosphere.
Thank you. It is a team effort, and again, as I mentioned earlier, I want to also reiterate the thank yous to everyone that's been involved in that. Let me ask you a question. So when you see all of the fake news and these reports and I have actually seen this on every single major network at their 6:30 news. It's been amazing to me what I'm watching, and I'm thinking, what is this? Do we respond? Do we send a response? Do we reply? Do we correct? Do we do anything when we see all of these broadcasts that basically are not representative of what's been happening here?
I can help out in that. We certainly do. Ashley and also Arlene have very specific contacts requesting for corrections. However, do they take us seriously? No. They go with whatever I will label fake news they have because it creates it creates sensationalism. But they have been on the defense, if you will, for that inaccurate information about Fort Lauderdale.
Yes. So let me chime in here. So to follow up on what you feel we should be doing, I've done multiple interviews with various media, and yes, you're correct in that the media is just aiming for that negative aspect of it, and in no way do we ever give them the ability to have a story, at least from us, on anything that's negative. We've kept a positive aspect. We've spun the issue in a very positive way, not because we're trying to cover up anything, but we're actually reflecting the reality of what's going on here. You know, the spring break in Fort Lauderdale has been largely successful. Most of the kids that come here are well behaved, and you know, we continue to invite people to come here, sign up to be a police officer should they be so inclined, and you know, we even made the Daily Show when they said, oh, Fort Lauderdale's so boring, why would you want to go there for spring break? All they want to do is sign you up to be a police officer. I mean, it's like, you know, one reporter said, oh, are you the new Miami? I said, we are absolutely not the new Miami. You know, we are Fort Lauderdale. We are FTL, right? And I think that as long as we continue to push back on that, we'll be successful, as we have been. In fact, some media are saying that Fort Lauderdale has been the 2024 destination for spring break this year because even though Miami did get its crowds, right? Miami still became very crowded. They still had dozens and dozens of arrests, gun possessions. You know, I feel bad. They'll get past that, just like we got past it in the early 80s. But it is a process. You know, Miami is a beautiful place. Jacksonville's a beautiful place. All the beach resorts have, you know, something to offer. But I have to commend our police department from the approaches that it has taken through its ability to diffuse situations. And I've heard so many compliments from people who've said that whenever there was an encounter with a police officer, the officer was there to help, not to aggravate or confront. It was always in a helpful way. And I think that's a totally different attitude than many visitors experience when they go to other locations. So thank you so much, Chief, and I appreciate, you know, the spirit and the culture that you've created for our police department.
Amen. And maybe just one suggestion, City Manager, when spring break is over, maybe we do a tremendous press release where we highlight how positive the experience was. We talk about the number of arrests in comparison to, you know, perhaps other places. I mean, you know, has there been tragedy in Florida? Yes, there has. Look what happened in Jacksonville. But again, I just think that even though we are responding and we're sending out corrections, I still think we have to keep hitting it because, you know, the message takes a while sometimes to sink in, and especially when you're fighting the media, which is trying to sensationalize and make it sound like it's something it's not. Again, the number of complaints that I receive versus the number of compliments, it's just it's two different things. I mean, again, one complaint to the office, and yet so many positive comments about the way things are being handled. And again, Chief, thank you.
Yeah,
and
and Ashley and Arlene,
Yes.
getting us on the air, getting us into newspapers, allowing us to make our statement and spread our message. I commend you all for the efforts you've made, and I think at the end, God willing, knock on wood, I think hopefully we'll come out of this very successfully. The business owners are happy. The hoteliers are very happy. The Airbnb crowd they've been filled to capacity throughout the city. So it's been a real good economic boon for the city, and I think there's been very little downside. So I thank God that it turned out this way, and I thank everybody in our staff for helping it make the experience for so many people so good.
I agree. Thank you. And again, that's why I did bring up the issue, just to make sure that we are thanking everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That's it for me.
I mean, it's things like this that the team is doing, thinking out of the box. You know, they did these flyers. Want to have safe fun, right? Turnover, and the spring breaker will go to this QR code, but it's to a website that shows you what you can't do at the beach. and it's a type of out of the box that I'm glad that everyone applauded, because this team is so creative with Chief Golan, Ashley, Arlene, the chief, and his PIO staff. They have positioned the welcome message, but organized fun, in a very consistent manner that everyone respects what's being done, and they also abide by anything that's being requested. So that's a great job that Chief, you've done.
Okay, thank you.
Without a doubt. Thank you. That's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sherman.
Usually pretty brief, but I'm just going to add a few items just to add to some of the issues that were brought up earlier by my colleagues over here. My daughter, Catherine, I heard that there's a lot of crowds on the beach over there. So my daughter, Catherine, who's a senior at the University of Central Florida, did her part to alleviate some of the crowding on the beach. She got on a cruise to get out of town for the week, so she's doing her part. I do want to say we did talk about the BDO and those undercuts, what we call them, and I just want to touch upon that. And you don't have to get up, Ben. I just want to say that we did meet for about 4 hours the day before the meeting, extensive, and we did a site tour, and we spent actually a lot of time talking about the undercuts and how the tunnel and the undercuts could coexist, and how they would interfere with one another. And not only the undercuts over by Broward Boulevard, but all the way down to possibly State Road 84, 17th Davie, where and up and down the lane where the tunnel will not help them. Freight is still going to be grade level. So we did talk a lot about that. Mr. Mayor, we did go to the painting of Las Olas, and you did point out, as we all did a little piece of painting, how I was the only commissioner who did not stay within the lines. And the good news, even though I'm a doctor, I am not a surgeon.
Good.
So to put your mind at ease. Okay.
Your hand was a little shaky there.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, I used to be pretty good, but I don't do the cutting. On a serious note, I know that the Chief, you don't have to come down, but you're still, Chief Schultz, are you still here? Yeah, just wave. No, you don't have to come down. This is a serious note. I just want to touch upon this. And there was a fire. No, you don't have to come down. This is just a shout out to you to thank you. What? Yeah. There was a fire in Chabad in the Jewish community, and it was in the heart of my district. And right after that, the chief gave me an update immediately and kept me abreast. And I did reach out to all the rabbis in Chabad, in particular to Rabbi Chaim. And a little emotional here, but I got a call out from First Presbyterian Church, the head pastor Nick Merchant. And because they're to my district, I was able to put them together. And the outpouring of support and prayer and the community engagement between the different faiths working together in this tragedy, it makes me really proud, not only to be a member of the city, but in my district. I want to thank everybody, the whole community. That's what we're really about. Just a couple other quick things. I will be there tomorrow for the Panthers for their ribbon cutting. It's a great opportunity. They are a fantastic partner with the city. We did have in April just a couple upcoming things. In April, we are going to have another one of continuing our town halls. This one, I know my staff is going to shoot me, but this one's going to be about parks, in particular with dogs in parks and the issue that's going to be coming before us later on. We are going to have in June a upcoming Hurricane Expo. Getting prepared for the hurricane. But this is not just district-wide, but city-wide. But our district particularly will be having an active role with that, with some of the other businesses. And we will be continuing in April our bike along with the commissioner in District 4 in the month of April. So keep an eye out. We'll have it all in our newsletter. I want to thank my staff for organizing all of this. And Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. That's done with my report.
Great. I just want to follow up on what happened at the Chabad on Las Olas. You know, I appreciate the police department reacting very quickly. The response time was amazing, as well as the fire department being there in such a quick fashion, putting out the fire. I believe that the investigation so far has shown that this was an opportunistic event and was not a hate crime, and we're very thankful for that. But the response by the community, which continues to grow, is one of fear, one of extreme anxiety. There have been a lot of alternative suggestions, I'll say, as to what went on there. People are very upset. This sense of fear, this everyday anxiety that people suffer in the Jewish community because of all the signals of hate they read about, they see on TV, and they experience in their personal lives, is something that, I don't know how many of us can really appreciate it. I certainly fell victim to that same sense of anxiety and reaction during a Pride event that took place a couple years ago. And people have a tendency to react beyond what the situation would suggest, but not without due cause. When we're living in a day and age in which the atmosphere is so toxic and poisoned by expressions of hate against one group against another, it goes to show you this kind of society that we live in, where a homeless person decides to throw something that ignited and started to burn down part of the building and ignited the vehicle of the rabbi's wife, I believe it was. The community's reaction is understandable, and my heart goes out for those folks who still to this day are not willing to believe that this wasn't a hate crime, because of the way in which society today has been itself victimized by the war in the Middle East and the expressions of hate that take place in our own country. I hate to see that in Fort Lauderdale. We do not tolerate this kind of behavior in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale is a community that embraces diversity and that celebrates the different cultures that exist in the city. And this city and its leadership will continue to support the Jewish community and any community that is allowed to express their faith and their culture. And we will continue to support every group that chooses to do that in a safe and unprovocative way. And so, my heart goes out to the community, the Chabad community there on Las Olas, and I know that this commission is fully supportive of any effort that we can continue to show in trying to seek out any possible way that this was nothing other than an opportunistic act of violence that was committed by this person, so allegedly committed by this person. So, let us move forward as a community. Let us move forward as fellow human beings, and let us continue to show our love for one another, and to know that we are there to support one another. Anyway, moving on. A lot of the things that I did were repeated by all the various commissioners, so I'm just going to highlight some of the things that I think are also important. I attended a climate mayors summit last week that was held by the Aspen Institute in Miami. It was an opportunity for mayors from around the country to participate in discussions on how to react to climate change, and saw a lot of the same mayors I've been seeing now for a number of different conferences, and I think it was a well-attended and really well put on event, and I want to continue to see that happen. It's an annual thing that happens in Miami, and I'm very pleased to be able to be invited to participate in that event. I also spoke at the BizNow Forum, gave the keynote speech to a group of business leaders who've come to Fort Lauderdale to continue their conversations on how to promote business and business interests. That same day, I spoke at the Women in Real Estate Leadership Forum at the Tower Club, again to help promote women in the real estate industry. It's a great opportunity to connect with that industry. On March 14th, we had a very special surprise. The ambassador of the Czech Republic, along with the foreign minister from the Czech Republic, were visiting in the area, and we were invited to dinner, joined them for dinner to discuss subjects of mutual interest. The city manager was there, and Daphne also participated. It was organized through a friend of mine that I know who's of Czech background, who's a business leader here in the community. So it was a great opportunity to meet with those folks. And I have to say, the St. Patrick's Day parade was a great opportunity for everyone. Like the vice mayor said, step out of our box and to really appreciate other cultures, other peoples, and other colors of beer. And it was really, I'm glad we've returned to celebrating St. Patrick's Day. It really has become a singular event for our city, and people from all over the region came to visit. So thanks again to all the organizers, everyone who put this together, and to former Mayor Jack Seiler for helping to initiate this 12 years ago. It's just really become a signature event of our community, and we're happy to continue it every year. I also participated in the 50th anniversary gala for the independence of Grenada. 50 years ago, they established their independence from Great Britain, along with a number of other island nations around there. And so it was wonderful to be able to participate in their celebration. Again, a group of people who probably is not on most people's radar, but where there's a thriving community here in our region. And I got up on the dance floor and started doing the salsa dances and their regional dances. So that was kind of fun. March 20th which is tomorrow, where we do the ribbon cutting for the Baptist Health Iceplex. This is just another example of how angel generosity continues to flourish in our city. It started, it's been going on for a number of years, but in a large way, it started with the Lockhart Stadium, where we now have the Chase Stadium, where Inter Miami plays, which drew international talent such as Leo Messi to our city. Things like this don't happen just because, we're such good people. It's because we work together as people, and we work together as partners with those who look to invest in our community. And I think that has shown itself in a lot of different ways. And when the Panther organization and Vinnie Viola came to us and said, we'd like to rehabilitate War Memorial Auditorium as well as to build 2 ice skating rinks, this saved the city millions and millions and millions of dollars. We were hemorrhaging over almost $1 million a year just operating War Memorial, let alone investing the kind of money that needed to be invested in order to give this place some vitality and a return to usefulness. And now having the 2 ice skating rinks, which provide a tremendous opportunity for families and children to be able to get together and enjoy a sports activity such as this. We are definitely blessed with these investor angels like we have today. And it goes on and on. Pickleball as well. When that is finally built, again, another place for families to get together and another sport activity for people to enjoy with their friends and their families. Not that any of you are going to be part of this, but there's the Lexus corporate run that same evening. Commissioner, will you be there? No? Oh, no. No. Oh, okay. I know. Yeah, well, if the shoe fits. March.
It's in the evening, and I only run in the morning.
Oh,
okay, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Sorry. I don't. It's during the early bird special, so I don't want to interfere. On March 23rd, this weekend is the Imperial Point Spring Fling. So the people from around the city are invited to participate. Unfortunately, we had to change the situs of it because it was in the Dottie Mancini Park, and we're still trying to work with with Broward Health to try to see if we can return the Broward Mancini Park as a public open space. But in the meantime, it's going to be at the neighborhood entrance, and it will start at 10 a.m. That's again this Saturday, March 23rd. And then on March 28th is the MPO Regional Awards, State of the Region, Awards. That's going to be at the Marriott Harbor Beach. That's at 11 a.m. Are you thinking of going? Is that on your calendar? I'm talking to my
co-MPO. No, unfortunately, I'm going to be on a family vacation then, so I'll be away.
Vacation? Well, good for you.
Once a year. Well, it's a leap year, so once every 4 years.
It's on my calendar, Mayor, and I'm going to go.
Okay. Good. You can have his lunch.
You could have my lunch.
April 1st is the NSU Diversity Summit. I'll be presenting a proclamation to Dr. Hamberry. That's going to be at the museum here at 11 a.m. And it's, again, open to the public. So other than that, I think we're good. And Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Wanted just to provide an update about a recent service directory that we've published. We've placed certain copies in your offices. We'd like to make sure that the public is able to reach us since some of us have moved certain office locations. This here has our contact information for various departments, and we encourage you all to share it with neighbors. Also, last week, we received an unsolicited proposal. You have received those in your offices. So we are in the process of vetting this, and so this should be coming at a future conference meeting for your consideration. This was distributed yesterday.
This is a proposal for what?
What is that? I don't think I saw
it is an unsolicited proposal. It is labeled Acre Fleet.
Oh, I got that. Yes.
And you will have more details in your offices as soon as you're able to review them. If you have any questions, and when you're ready, we can put that in a conference meeting as well.
Greg, what is that in reference to?
This is an unsolicited proposal called Acre Fleet. I encourage you to review it. It should be in your offices.
Yeah, we got it yesterday.
But just want to make sure we have full transparency so that we can bring that back for your consideration and determining if this is something you would like to consider. I know that one of the major initiatives and priorities for the Commission is the unsheltered population and homeless mitigation. Just wanted to report that we had 2 members of our staff, City Manager's Office, visit other cities like Vancouver and San Diego, Vancouver, Washington, that is. And members visited those cities to look at best practices, and we are looking forward to bringing a report and a briefing on potential initiatives that can support and improve outcomes for homeless mitigation. We continue to work with the county on a frequent basis to look at providing support with the bus terminal. However, there is plenty of work still that has to happen. One of the things that the police chief and I did last week is that we did a jail tour of the booking system and how that impacts and influences the unsheltered population that exists within the city limits. We will ask that if you all would like to have a tour with the chief and with myself and with BSO on the corrections facility and the booking process, we can coordinate that, because we would like to bring some items forward at a future commission meeting to determine how we can perhaps change outcomes in those areas as well. You will be receiving an invitation for a private event for groundbreaking for the new pickleball center. You'll be getting that in your offices. And also, I will be out of the office next week, March 25th through 29th, and Ms. Susan Grant will be acting as city manager. And those are my comments.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any report?
Nothing to add, sir.
None right now. Okay, so that basically concludes all the business of the conference agenda. So that meeting is now concluded.
Are we concluding or just taking a break?
No,
Because we have the executive session.
That's not part of the conference meeting. That's an executive session. So I want to go in, since it's not 4:30 yet, I'd like to go into the CRA meeting, and let's get that done. I know there are people that are sitting out there patiently. So why don't we go ahead with the CRA board meeting? This meeting has now been...
Well, Dean, just one quick question. For the city attorney, it's listed as part of the agenda on the conference, the executive. So is that technically still part of the conference? Do we... Or
Are you talking about the executive session?
Executive session. It's listed as part of our conference.
It's not part of the conference.
Okay, that's all I just wanted.
Okay, so Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Herbst is not present at the moment. Commissioner Glassman?
Here.
Vice Chair Beasley Pittman?
Here.
Commissioner Sturman?
Here.
Chair Trentalis?
Here. So we have a quorum for the CRA board. We have a couple of items on the agenda. First of all, M1, motion approving the minutes for the January 9th, 2024 Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst is not present. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, and that item is approved. M2, motion accepting the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency annual report and audit report and authorization to transmit to the taxing districts. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, and M2 is now approved. Moving on to the resolutions. R1, this is a resolution accepting the instruments of conveyance for the city-owned property located at 800 Northwest 22nd Road in the Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Area, authorizing to contract with companies for appraisal, title, survey, environmental services, maintenance, and related services, authorizing the issuance of requests for proposals for redevelopment of the property, authorizing the executive director to execute any and all related instruments, and delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
This is contingent upon a public hearing you have later in the regular meeting. That's PH1. It'll be a resolution approving the transfer of city-owned property to the CRA. It's just the way the agendas are set up.
So this, we
you'll
can
be
pass the
approving-
resolution, but it's subject to passage of the
That is
matter
correct.
tonight. Okay.
Yes.
So, does someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
It's been introduced. Anyone have any questions? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency accepting conveyance of real property located at 800 Northwest 22nd Road in the Northwest Progressive Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Area from the City of Fort Lauderdale, authorizing the Executive Director to engage in appropriate due diligence, authorizing the Executive Director to contract with companies for appraisals, title, survey, environmental services, maintenance, and related services, and to issue a request for proposals for the redevelopment of the property, delegating authority to the Executive Director to execute any and all related instruments related to conveyance, due diligence, and maintenance of the parcels, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, and that resolution is now approved. Finally, R2, a resolution amending resolution number 22-12 and providing for an effective date. Mr. Rosenstein, you have just here for questions, correct? Okay. Anyone else have any interest in commenting? Okay, there being none, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
The resolution has been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency amending resolution number 22-12 and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, R2 is approved. Is there any further business of the CRA?
Motion to adjourn.
There being none, the CRA meeting is now concluded. And I guess, is the court reporter here? Okay. I want to do OPED?
Would you want to do OPEB, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, we'll do OPED.
We love OPEB.
We now open the other post-employment benefits board meeting this March 19th, 2024. BR1, other post-employment benefits trust quarterly investment report for period ending December 31st, 2023. Comments?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. So just a good news report again. This trust fund was set up with a passive investment strategy, so we do not have an investment manager watching the funds. They're all benchmarked against indexes, and that's how we have our funds placed. Our rate of return is estimated at 7%. We're earning 9%, which is great, right? So
what do we do with the difference?
Without the managers, we're earning above what we need to cover the expenses for the fund. So that's my report.
And where's that going to pay down the debt?
What that does is part of it is a part for the police and firefighters retirement fund, and the other part is our health insurance stipend that we pay out, and so it just helps to reduce the city's liability towards those trust funds.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
What type of stuff do you have invested in for 9%?
Right. Well, it tells you here. So we have about. It's a pension trust fund.
Why don't you take that offline, Commissioner?
Unlike the city's operating funds, we do have the ability in a trust fund to invest in equities. So part of it is equities and part of it is fixed income, and that's why you're doing so well, because the markets are good and equities are up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, there being none, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to M1, motion approving the minutes for the December 19th, 2023 OPEB Trust Board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Been moved. Do I hear
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst not present. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, and M1 is now approved. Is there any further business of the other post-employment benefits board? There is none. This meeting is concluded. Okay, we're doing really well. So let us now retire to the, where are we going, by the way?
We're going to a conference room.
Is there a conference room? Okay. At this
Angela, can
time,
you-
the city commission shall meet privately to conduct discussions between the city manager, the city attorney, and the city commission relative to pending litigation pursuant to section 286.011, parentheses 8, Florida statutes in connection with the following matter. Mark Messina and Bernard McDonald versus the city of Fort Lauderdale. Case number 21CV 60168 RKA. Present at the client session will be myself, Mayor Dean Trentalis, Vice Mayor Pamela Beasley Pittman, Commissioner John Herbst, Commissioner Stephen Glassman, Commissioner Warren Sturman, City Manager Greg Chevarria, City Attorney Thomas Ansbro, Deputy City Attorney Dwayne Spence, Outside Counsel Hudson C. Gill, Esquire, Johnson and Anselmo et al., Outside Counsel Christopher Stearns, Esquire, Johnson and Anselmo et al., and Certified Court Reporter from Bailey Enton Court Reporting. The estimated length of the session will be approximately 20 minutes. See you there.